All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 123. Thank you guys so much, as always, for waiting patiently for the credits roll to happen for the first 5 minutes. I always say it gives me a bit of a breather, gives people time to kind of come in and get settled in, allows me to get settled in. So I always appreciate you guys waiting patiently. And I noticed right off the bat here we have some very, very generous donations, some very generous super chats from New Soul 9. So first of all, thank you for that, man. I really appreciate that. I'm going to read those in just a minute, so don't worry. I'm going to be taking care of that, but I definitely wanted to thank you for that. Yeah, I have my glasses on today. They help me more than I probably would like to admit. So figured, you know what? Hey, I'll wear them today. Why not? But yeah, for those of you who are here right now, we have over 300 people tuning in to PXP live. So thank you for that. Do me a favor. Be sure to hit that like button for me if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the weekly podcast, and you appreciate the community here, you appreciate what I do. Just by simply hitting that like button, it pretty much tells YouTube that this is worthwhile content. You want to see it succeed, and YouTube would want to see it succeed, and they're going to push it out there in front of new viewers, and hopefully, we can continue to grow the community here. So do that for me. Hit the like button. And if you are somebody who's watching after the fact, still hitting the like button then helps a lot as well. But we have a decent amount to discuss over the course of this podcast episode. There's actually some really strange stuff that has happened, some exciting stuff, some rumors, of course, as always. There's I say as always, but I think truthfully, the past couple of weeks, there really hasn't been a whole lot of PlayStation rumors specifically. But yeah, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of the topics that we're going to discuss today. Then I'm going to dive into these super chats, and we'll just we'll get right into it. So we're going to talk about, obviously, the PlayStation price increase. There is a bit of an update to this. I have more to talk about. Obviously, I have more to say on a personal level, but there is actually more information that I have yet to cover in any of my videos. So we'll cover it here on the podcast. We're going to talk about a bit of controversy, as if we haven't seen enough of that surrounding PlayStation lately, with Hogwarts Legacy specifically and some exclusive content there. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation Showcase rumor. Apparently, it's scheduled for September 8th. If that's true, we are literally just about a week away from it happening. So I want to talk all about that. We're going to talk about the Dualsense Edge. This was the big reveal from Sony at Gamescom, which was pretty unexpected. We're going to talk about Forspoken. We got new Forspoken gameplay, which, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but there's actually another game. It's an Xbox game called High on Life. I'm sure many of you are aware of this game by now, and it seems that both Forspoken and High on Life are clashing with one another to take the crown for most cringe, the cringiest dialogue, which is a pretty strange situation. We got our first teaser for the Last of Us HBO series, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other things we're going to discuss over the course of this podcast episode as well. Thanks to you guys always kind of, making it easy for me to just keep going in all different directions. So yeah, as I said, hit that like button. But something else I do also want to mention. Well, first off, I have to ask okay, my stream's doing that thing again where it's just hiccuping a little bit. So all right, just that. Okay, so yeah, other than hitting the like button, just a couple of other ways you guys can help support my channel here and my content output. Obviously, as you can see, we have individuals donating super chats. So, if you want to help support me directly and you just want to be part of that, feel free to do so. I appreciate that greatly. Become a channel member if you're interested. A big shout out to all of my channel members. You do get some exclusive perks for doing so. So yeah, those are some ways you can support me directly. But as I always say, just you being here, watching the content, interacting with it, always means a lot. Saying, yeah, your channel's lagging a little bit. Yeah, guys, let me know. How is it, how is the stream on your end right now? For everybody who's watching, I just want to make sure that everything is coming through smoothly before we dive into it. A lot of people are saying it's good for them. Okay. Saying it's gone now. Yeah, there might be some hiccups. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Maybe it's my internet connection. Maybe not. I mean, I have very good internet, so I don't know. I'll just keep an eye on it. But let me dive into these super chats. I have a bunch of super chats from New Soul 9. So let me dive into this here. New Soul 9 has quite a bit to say with all of these super chats, so I'm just going to read them back to back to back. So he says, MBG, I watched the full 24-minute interview of Phil Spencer on Bloomberg. What I got out of the interview is that he wants the games in general to reach more users. And he says, read the next super chat. He noticed many people on phones, PC, TV, etc. He wants to grow the community in general. Xbox can put their games like Call of Duty on the PlayStation Store at full price. Xbox gets a full cut of the profit from the PlayStation players if they decide to buy it or rent it through Game Pass. So what's really the difference? They are still giving you access to their games. Behind a paywall, aren't they? They are still a company after all. They need to make profit somehow, whether it's by owning or renting. I think what you guys and the PlayStation community in general actually care about is in what kind of way you have access to games rather than the game itself, and focusing where your money is going to or who is getting your money. Whether that's Sony getting your money or Microsoft getting your money, Sony can put their subscription services or sell them at full price on Xbox, and it'll do exactly what Phil is advocating for, which is to get games in more people's hands plus grow the community instead of putting it on one piece of plastic. It didn't let me put my full paragraph in one complete super chat, so I had to cut it up into pieces. Well, yeah, I could see that. Well, first of all, New Soul 9, before I respond to what you're saying here, again, a huge thank you for the generous super chats, man. That's very, very kind of you. I appreciate the support. And so, here's something I do want to talk about for just a moment here, because I did make a mistake. And if you noticed, I actually changed the title and thumbnail of my latest video. And that was because I realized that the article I was reading from when it came to Phil Spencer and his comments, it was a pretty disingenuous article from VGC. And the reason why I say this is because, well, you know what? I'm just going to bring it up here so I can tell you guys, okay? Because something felt a little bit off to me here. So the article from VGC that I covered, it says, Xbox boss expects there to be less and less platform exclusives in the future. So the first couple of paragraphs says, Xbox boss Phil Spencer expects the number of platform exclusives to decline over the coming years. In an interview with Bloomberg, Phil Spencer said that games being made available on multiple systems was better for the long-term health of the industry than products being tied to a single platform. Console exclusives are, quote, something we're just going to see less and less of, end quote, Microsoft's gaming chief predicted. Now, here's the important part that I want to point out. Immediately after that, they go into a quote here, okay? And the way they do this is kind of shady because they do not preface this quote. They do not give context to this quote. And I actually went and checked the interview myself, unfortunately, after the fact. And I realized that this quote was completely taken out of context in order to maybe skew this article in one way. So the quote, he says, maybe you happen in your household to buy an Xbox, I buy a PlayStation, our kids want to play together, and we can't because we bought the wrong piece of plastic. We really love to be able to bring more players in, reducing friction, making people feel safe, secure when they're playing, allowing them to find their friends. And he says, maybe in the short run, there's some people in companies that don't love it, but I think as we get over the hump, and we see where the industry can continue to grow, it proves out to be true. Now, reading after this, he says Spencer was speaking against the backdrop of Microsoft's proposed $70 billion acquisition, Activision Blizzard acquisition. And it goes on to talk about Call of Duty a little bit. But here's the thing that really bothers me about this article, and I blame myself in this case. I should have done my due diligence. I shouldn't have relied on VGC. I shouldn't have relied on this article alone. I discovered that quote from Phil Spencer had nothing to do with exclusivity. That entire quote that I just read, that was actually under the context of cross-play. Cross-play for games, not exclusivity. Now, it is true that what he said here, he says that he believes that, games being made available on every console and every platform is better for the industry in the long run. And he says he thinks that's something we're going to see less and less of. So, this is where I still do kind of stand by. There is a slight hypocrisy here, just a slight, where it's like, yeah, dude, I mean, you're saying that, but you did just buy Bethesda. You didn't have to make Starfield exclusive. You didn't have to make you still don't have to make the Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive. But I will say here that this article is shady because that quote, this article wants you to believe that this quote, where Phil talks about how, I bought an Xbox, you bought a PlayStation, and, some companies don't love it, and, we're going to get over that hump. It wants you to believe he's talking about exclusives. He's not. He's talking about crossplay. And that's what bothers me, because it's like, oh, well, if you read this quote from Phil and you're assuming the context here is he's talking about exclusivity, it does sound completely hypocritical. But then when you realize and you listen to the interview, you realize he's actually talking about crossplay, not exclusivity, with that comment and that quote. Suddenly it's like, oh. So, New Soul 9, to get back to what you're saying here, I do get what you're saying. Like, there is the only thing that we have to ask ourselves, and I mean from an individual standpoint, you have to ask yourself this question. I have to ask myself this question. We can get into the semantics of it. We can discuss, what we think is the best way objectively. At the end of the day, I think it's mostly subjective. I mean, there are certain data points, certain facts we can point to back up our belief or whatever we may think is best. But the only thing we have to ask ourselves is what we believe the end goal for these companies is. For example, when we think of Microsoft, we can listen to what Phil Spencer says. We can read all the quotes from Phil Spencer. We can, listen to the interviews. But when we look at everything they're doing, we just simply have to ask ourselves, what is the end goal here? And this is where New Soul 9, I think you're basically highlighting what the general end goal for Microsoft is, which is they want to be literally everywhere. And I'm not talking about the Xbox console. We are talking about Game Pass. Phil Spencer he wants Game Pass to be on every device, including PlayStation. He wants it to be everywhere. And, that is truly Phil's end goal. And I think where the problem lies, if there is a problem, at least for us here, when we look at Sony, I think generally most of us are in agreement that doesn't seem to be the same thing that Sony wants. Sony's end goal seems to be, at this point in time, different from Microsoft's. And you see that in the fact that Sony isn't putting all of their games into their service, and they are not trying to put their service onto every device. But at the same time, you do see Sony taking a few pages from Microsoft's book. where it's like, okay, we don't want to be on Samsung TVs. We don't want a PlayStation app on Samsung TVs at this moment in time. But maybe what we do want is, we want to put some of our games on PC. We want to create a mobile division and make, I don't want to say these games accessible through mobile, but essentially create versions of these games for mobile. So to me, it just seems like, let me take a step back here. Let me take a step back here before I get ahead of myself. What I ultimately gather from everything we are seeing, from everything I'm hearing from Jim Ryan, from everything I'm hearing from Phil Spencer, from the decisions that they're making, it seems clear to me that ultimately, Microsoft and Sony have the same exact end goal, which is they want their platform and their games, and as well as any games that exist on their platform, to be in front of as many people as possible. But where the difference lies, is in how they plan to achieve that. Microsoft, I'm going to be honest with you guys, like this is where I'm going to just give it to you straight up. Microsoft is much more about removing barriers than Sony is. That's just the reality. I don't think anybody can deny that. I don't even think the most dedicated hardcore PlayStation fan can deny that. However, and this is the important part we have to pay attention to, we do have to ask ourselves, and we do ask ourselves, on the surface, that sounds good. Removing all the barriers, bringing it down as low as possible. Yes, that sounds good. That sounds ideal. Of course, we want more people in. We want more people to play these games and experience these games, right? And experience these products. But it gets a little bit more complicated when you start to ask the question, well, is it ideal actually? Like from our perspective, like the gamer that's been playing through the generations, the gamer that's been kind of conditioned to, buy a console, buy a game at full price, and there's a certain expectation that is tied to that and has always been tied to that. When we suddenly look at a scenario in which, now we're changing Microsoft isn't saying we're changing the expectation. Microsoft is changing the expectation when it comes to how much are you expected to pay? How much do you have to give to gain access? And this is fundamentally what Microsoft is changing. And they're doing it because that's their ultimate ambition. We want everybody in the door, and we will lower the barrier. We will widen the door, the gap, I guess you could say, as much as we can to let as many people funnel through as possible. But we have to ask ourselves, we know nothing is perfect. We know nothing is perfect. We know that there's a cost for everything. At the end of the day, that's just a part of the universe. That's just how the universe works. There is a cost for everything. There's give and there's take, right? There's yin and there's yang. So we have to naturally ask ourselves, what are the potential downsides to doing something like this? Now, right now, we do not have the answer to that question. And this is exactly the point I'm trying to make. Sony nor Microsoft has the answer to that question. Microsoft, they will portray to you, because they have to. Microsoft and Phil Spencer and everybody there, they will make it seem that they do have the answer. They do know the answer. And I'm sure they have some data. They have a lot of things going on behind the scenes, a lot of people who are put in place to attempt to determine these things, attempt to predict the future, where they have a good feeling. They have a certain things they can point to say, oh yeah, this is the future. And this is good for the future. Like we're pretty sure of that. But the reality is we still don't know, and Microsoft still doesn't know. with that in mind, Sony does not know, Nintendo does not know, Google, Amazon, any of these other companies that may try to get involved one day, they do not know. The reality is Xbox is doing something that has never been done in the gaming industry before. And they're doing it with confidence because why wouldn't they? Does anybody expect Microsoft to come out here and be like, yeah, we're not really sure about Game Pass. We don't know how it's going to affect the industry 5 to 10 years from now. So yeah, we'll hope for the best. They're not going to talk that way. You know, they're going to talk about we want everybody in the door. We want to lower the barriers. We want gaming everywhere. But they never take a second to consider or talk about the potential downside. And this is why Sony looks like the bad guy. Sony looks like the bad guy because Sony, they're looking at Microsoft and everybody's looking at Sony and they're like, Sony, Jim, what are you doing, man? How come I can just pay $10 a month and gain access to all of Microsoft's games? How come Microsoft seems to want everybody over there and they're doing all of these things that just seem so pro-consumer, like they're willing to eat the cost on almost everything. Why won't you do that, Sony? And you know why Sony doesn't do it? Sony doesn't do it because, well, there's two reasons. We've already established this. I don't want to sound like a broken record, even though I do. We know that Sony, they don't have as much money as Microsoft. I hate to keep bringing it back to that, but the truth is Sony cannot eat the cost in any way that Microsoft is right now. Sony would literally go under within a couple of years, probably less than that. So there's that. Right off the bat, Sony's going to be very skeptical. Like, I don't know about that, Microsoft. We can't afford to eat the cost that you are. So therefore, we are not going to do that because we cannot do that. But let's just say Sony could do it. If Sony could do it, would they? Would they? And, well, I want to say no, but that's another question we do not have the answer to. So what it comes down to is Sony simply says, look, we have partook in the gaming industry since 1994. We've been through 4 console generations, all 4 of which have been successful. Granted, the PS3 was a rough patch, but the PS1, 2, and 3, immensely successful. Sony did carve out their own success in an established market, with an established business model. So there's no reason, literally zero reason, for Sony to look at their competitor who got beat in that business model, who could not compete with that same business model, who could not succeed with that same business model. There is zero reason for Sony to turn to, and I know people are going to get triggered when I use this term. You know, I'm not going to use that term because people are going to get all mad. There's no reason for Sony being in first place to look back at the runner who's in third place, who is just going in a completely different direction, and suddenly say to themselves, we should go follow them now. We're in first place here. We're in the lead here. And we've been doing this for a long time. But that guy back there, he just went in that direction. So we're going to go follow him. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense for Sony to do that. However, if Microsoft ends up achieving their end goal here, which is suddenly Game Pass takes over the world and like one of the only platform holders, that being Sony, says we're not putting Game Pass on our device, we're making our own, well then at that point Sony likely will be, at least temporarily, in third place or in last place. Because if Sony is too late to the, like, if Microsoft succeeds in their Game Pass endeavor and it really is the future, Sony is running the risk of being late to the party. But again, like, there is no proof, zero proof. And this is what I need to emphasize to people who don't want to see the business side of things. They don't want to understand or accept the business realities. There is zero proof that Game Pass, that model, is truly the sustainable, keyword sustainable, future of the gaming industry. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just simply saying it's not proven yet in the long run. But if Microsoft ever does get there, well, we're going to have to ask ourselves, how did they get there? And I've tried to tell people before that there's nothing wrong with anything Phil Spencer's saying. Like, who's going to listen to Phil say, Phil's going to come out and be like, I want to lower the barrier for gaming. I want more people gaming. I want more people to enjoy gaming. Who's going to turn to Phil and be like, that's bad, dude. That's wrong. Nobody is. But that's the benefit he gets from choosing to do something like Game Pass. And that's the benefit. Phil Spencer has the ability to be able to speak in that way because he knows he has Microsoft's backing. You know, if somebody were to ask Phil, so how much money are you making on Game Pass? Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, they're making a lot of money, but how much are they spending? Are you breaking even? When will you break even? How long will it take to break even? You see what I'm saying? Like Hulu versus Netflix. Yeah, it's a similar situation, man. And I'm just going on this long-winded, discussion here simply because we are seeing Microsoft do something that is simply unprecedented in the gaming industry. You cannot blame Sony or Nintendo for not diving in headfirst. And I think that right now, Microsoft is deadlier than they've ever been in the gaming industry. And you know why? Obviously, as we said, it's because of money. What makes Microsoft so deadly is money is not a problem for them. They can do literally whatever they want, and it will not hurt them at all. But what makes Microsoft particularly deadly this time around is they can spend this money behind the scenes. They can spend this money behind the scenes, and they can turn around to the entire gaming industry and community and say, let's not say industry, the entire gaming community, and say, hey guys, that's right. We did it for you. Yep. This game that's coming to Game Pass, it's because of you. We are on your side. We want you in here. You want to be here. We'll give you the best deal. They can't do what we're doing. And that is what makes Microsoft deadly right now. And we are witnessing it. We are witnessing it. And this leads me to my first topic, which is to talk about the PS5 price increase, because you can yes, Microsoft has that advantage where they can cut with precision when it comes to PR and marketing, and Microsoft is able to achieve something with their marketing that Sony cannot, that Nintendo cannot, that nobody else can. Microsoft has worked and paid a lot of money to be able to achieve this. And so what does Sony decide to do? What does Jim Ryan... wait, hold on. I don't know if it's just Jim Ryan's fault. Apparently it's Kenichiro Yoshida, I think that's his name. That is the CEO of all of Sony. We have to assume it was his decision at the end of the day, not Jim Ryan. We don't know, of course, but it would make sense because, yes, the truth is all of Sony's products across the board are going up in price. So it does seem like it's a general Sony thing. It's not like it's just Jim Ryan with just PlayStation. But what I'm trying to point out here is during a time when Sony's main competitor, that being Microsoft, or what we perceive to be their main competitor, is out here slicing and dicing in the marketing department. Best deal you can get. Come on in the Game Pass. We're all about the gamer. We're all about lowering barriers. We're all about reducing the cost. Xbox Series S, cheaper alternative. Microsoft has been just leaning into this nonstop. and because it's working for them. So what does Sony do to combat this? You know what? We're going to be the only console manufacturer. The only console manufacturer, and I really have to emphasize that, the only console manufacturer that's going to raise the price of our console across the board, everywhere except the US. Now, look, I know, and I'm going to get to these super chats, guys. Give me just a moment here. I know that there are going to be those of you who bring up valid points, and I'm not invalidating them. If you turn to me and say, MBG, they had a reason for doing it. The reason is inflation. The reason is they want to be able to, make it so that in Japan, if a customer buys a PS5, they're not going to be technically spending, if you do conversion rates, $366 for their PS5. They're going to be paying $500 for the PS5. Yes, you are not wrong. Sony does have a reason. They didn't just increase the price because they said, well, we can just increase the price. Why not? No, they do have a reason. However, I need to once again emphasize that for whatever their reason may be, and even though Jim Ryan takes to the PlayStation blog and he says it's inflation and currency rates and all that, Microsoft nor Nintendo are doing this. In fact, both Microsoft and Nintendo have come out and said, we're not raising the price of our consoles. And this is why you have to seriously be concerned. To a degree. I don't want to make it sound like we have to be so concerned that it's like, get ready to throw out your PlayStations, guys. We're done with Sony here. Not like that. Because something else I'm going to touch on is even though Sony is making, in my opinion, a very poor choice, it's not like we can't ignore the fact that, yeah, Sony delivers the games. Sony's been delivering the games. Sony's been on point with the games. They've been doing a lot of things really well. But this one decision that they've made, in my opinion, is the one we have to be the most concerned about, because this is the literally the worst move they could have made. The worst move they could have made. They could have announced that the price of PS Plus maybe had to go up by like $5 or something. That still would have been pretty bad, but it's like I don't understand. I see somebody saying, MBG, with all due respect, you need to better educate yourself on this. Dude, I'm not going to sit here and make it sound like I know every single aspect of this from every angle. That's not true. But I do believe I have a pretty good understanding. Here's my understanding. Last quarter, Sony said their, I don't know if it was their profit or their revenue, but either way, the total amount of money they made was down by like 37%. Okay, I think their total revenue was down by 37%. This was the last quarter. All right. They still made $400 million in profit. Now, keep in mind that this was during a time when they didn't have any big game releases and there just wasn't a whole lot going on in general. And it's also during a time when we're coming off of record high numbers. Okay. Due to the pandemic. So 37% and then still being able to make a $400 million profit. I know that compared to Microsoft, that's like nothing. I get that. But that's not the point. The point is that if Sony's still raking in $400 million of profit, right, during what you would consider one of their worst quarters, why are we treating Sony like they are some kind of struggling company? Like, why are we treating Sony like, look, the point I'm trying to make is Sony has continually passed the cost to us, the consumer. That's the point, man. Like, I understand that we're just talking about consoles and video games, but surely you can understand where I'm coming from when I'm saying, guys, their main competitor, Microsoft, is doing the opposite of this. Microsoft is eating the cost everywhere, not just here or there, but everywhere. And so Sony decides during a time like that, well, we're not going to eat the cost here. We need the PS5 to remain profitable. Dude, if I'm not mistaken, Sony in their darkest hour during the beginning of the PS3, they were eating hundreds of dollars on every PS3 sold. Now, I'm not saying that was good. I'm not saying that they didn't have to correct that, because of course they did. But the point is, they knew that their back was against the goddamn wall and they had to do what needed to be done. And you know why they did it? They did it to look good. They did it as a gesture of goodwill to the fucking customer, man. They did during the beginning of the PS3 era, or the middle of it, I think it was around like 2008 or 9. They did the exact same thing during a different time, of course, that Microsoft is doing now, which is, you know what? We're a multi-billion-dollar company. Our back is against the wall, but we're going to do this because we care about you, the customer. Meanwhile, with the regime that's there for Sony now, they're coming out here and saying, you know what? Fuck that. We want to be profitable. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, this would be very different, in my opinion. This would be very different if Nintendo and Microsoft both came out and were like, yeah, we got to raise the price of our consoles too. If they both did that, then I would say, okay, all right, I guess it's just something that had to be done. But that's not what's happening here, guys. That's not what's happening here. And don't get me wrong, like, I know how some people are going to get where they're going to be like, well, MBG's making it sound like Microsoft is completely innocent and Nintendo's completely innocent. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying this suddenly means Sony is the worst and they're the most evil corporation in the world. It's not that. It's just about, like, are you kidding me, Sony? Like, people are already having a hard time finding this console. You increased you were the first one to increase your games to $70. You said we need a $10 upgrade fee. You charged $120 for PlayStation Premium to then, the very next month, give your PlayStation Premium customers literally nothing, or my bad, a 35-minute trial of Rollerdrome. This is the type of shit where we need to put their feet to the fire, because if we do not, they are going to steamroll us. They are going to not just ask for our wallet, they're going to take it. They're going to take it. And also, I want to point out, they're doing this at a time when they're already fucking getting grilled for a $70 remake in The Last of Us Part 1. I mean, my God, it's like, whatever, man. You can explain to me all day, every day about the reason why Sony is doing this and how it's justifiable, and that's fine, because here's the reality. They did it. It doesn't matter what I have to say. This is what Sony chose. This is what they're doing, and it is what it is. It's not like Jim Ryan's going to be like, oh, I see MBG's upset that we raised the price of the PS5. We have to change this right now. That's not what's going to happen, and I know that. But I just can't sit here in good conscience and be like, yeah, it's totally cool. And yeah, it doesn't affect me directly per se, because I already have my PS5, but I've been following PlayStation for a little while now, and especially during the PS5 rollout. And it's like, I'll tell you this. If Sony is trying to turn people off from the PlayStation brand, they're doing it. They're beginning to do a good job of that. They are. I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking the same thing I am, which is, dude, it's going to be water under the bridge. There's something new that Sony's doing to piss people off every week. But Sony's going to come out. They're going to have their showcase. They're going to bring the games. We got God of War Ragnarok. We got Spider-Man 2. We got PSVR 2. And that's the thing, is I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom. I'm not saying it's all garbage or it's all going to hell. I'm not saying that. I mean, I have a lot of emotion in my voice, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's like they are slowly but surely slicing and dicing the goodwill that they worked so hard to gain during the end of the PS3 generation into the PS4 generation. That's all I'm saying, man. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, fine. It doesn't have to. I'm not saying it has to. But just know, man, that they are playing right into Microsoft's hand right now. They are playing right into Microsoft's hand where, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is what they have to do. Maybe they have to turn to Microsoft and say, go ahead, give them your good deal. We're fine over here. We're about profitability. We're going to make money on our hardware. Maybe that's what they got to do. And to a degree, I can respect that at a certain level where it's like, all right, fine, draw your line in the sand. You have every right to do that. Sony has every goddamn right to do what they're doing right now. But that doesn't mean I have to love it. That doesn't mean I have to be okay with it. That doesn't mean I have to cheer them on for it. I understand it, but it doesn't mean I have to be okay with it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, is what I mean to say. Anyway, I have a shit ton of super chats to get through here, thank you guys so much. Let me cool down this rant. Let me take a little sip here. Man, that was a. I really went down a rabbit hole there. All right, Planet Schlorpian. Thank you for the 20, my friend. You're saying, if Sony does a PS5 PC play anywhere sort of thing, I'll be fully on board with the PC ports. I can play them on vacation with my gaming laptop. I do think that Sony is slowly pushing in that direction, Planet Schlorpian, and I think we're really going to begin to see that come to a head with their live service games. I do. I really think that Sony is going to make it clear that, hey, man, like the Last of Us multiplayer game, yeah, that's going to be available on PC. It's going to have cross progression, cross save, stuff like that. I don't know if they're going to do it with their single player games. That's the thing. I really am not sold on that notion yet because they don't seem to, like, they're putting some of their single player games on PC, but I don't see that happening just yet. With their live service games, though, I think they are going to do like a play anywhere type thing. And then maybe in the long run, way down the line, they might choose to do it with single player games too. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying, someone is trying to get into my Sony account. Whoever you are, just know that when I find you, I will. Okay. I literally cannot read that line. But all I'm going to say is Sir Speaks a Lot is warning somebody out there. Very inappropriate. Sir Speaks a Lot. There's a better way to handle this, man. Jesus. Pragmatic Cat, you're saying Death Stranding day 1000 Game Pass on PC only. Are you trying to hurt my feelings, Kojima? Why even do it at that point? Dude, something I want to mention real quick too is Death Stranding on Game Pass PC, it's not even the director's cut. So that's interesting to me. It's very clear that Sony really had nothing to do with this. And the director's cut version came after Sony pursued their PC ambitions or began to pursue them. So Kevin Reavers, you're saying, don't forget Sony Entertainment is a huge gambling department. Too many L's and SIE has to really make big hits. It's great they've kept it going single in storytelling, risk-taking, and profitability. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. Like, I'm not advocating for I want to see Sony with their back against the wall. You know, it's not like I want to see Sony in a critical position like they were with the PS3 again. I'm not saying that, but it's just like I'm just not convinced that in order to avoid that, you have to increase the price of the PS5. Like, I really think you'll be okay because it's not like the pricing is going to stay like this forever. That's why. Hasn't anybody asked themselves, well, why isn't Microsoft or Nintendo raising the price of their console? It's because it's not going to stay this way, man. You know, like it's could be a little bit, but it's not going to be like in 2020. I want to assume in 2024 and 2025. You know, by that point, there would be no reason to. You would assume there would be no reason to keep the price up. It wouldn't need to be. Things should hopefully even out. Assuming, I mean, again, this is all assuming it doesn't get worse. And you could say that maybe that's what Sony's preparing for, but I'll tell you this. Sony will be vindicated if at some point it's not going to happen with Microsoft. It's just not going to happen with Microsoft, but maybe Nintendo. If at some point Well, then again, you know what? This is where there is a little bit more nuance here. All right. Let me say this. I want to say this too, because I know I was in ultra rant mode, and this isn't necessarily defending Sony, but it is a valid point that I do need to acknowledge. It's only fair. We do need to acknowledge that the reason why Nintendo wouldn't feel the need to raise the price of their console right now is because we're talking about hardware that released in 2017. I see somebody saying the Switch is already overpriced. So we have to acknowledge that, okay? Like that is a fact. All right. The other side of it too is Microsoft. Yes, it is true. They are a $1 trillion company. They can eat a lot more of the cost than Sony otherwise could. Again, that's not defending Sony, because I'm telling you, Sony can still eat the cost. Don't be fooled. Sony can still eat the cost. But it is like, yeah, Sony, I hate to put it in these terms because it sounds so silly. Sony's a $1 billion company. Microsoft's a $1 trillion company. So it's like, it's just hard for me to care, because it's like, dude, can I have $1 million? You know, like, can I be a $1 million YouTube channel here? It's like, I can't feel bad. I can't. I'm on the side of the consumer here, but I did want to point that out. I did want to put that out. Okay. Let me, Always Busy, you're saying the Game Pass model is a proven W. Netflix and app stores, those are success stories. That said, their negatives are also the clear issue that Microsoft will face, but worse. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is like, I mean, again, we do look at Netflix. You could argue that Netflix, you know, they're seeing their worst days now because of the increased competition, and maybe they weren't prepared for the competition. And that's where it's like, yeah, I mean, that could be true, man. This is where it's like, we do have to see, because it's just because Netflix is failing right now doesn't mean that the model itself is failing. Netflix is failing because they are facing an immense amount of competition, because everybody jumped on board. Right now, Microsoft is a solo act with this, right? If the day comes where Sony, like I've always said, Sony could easily crush Game Pass. Well, maybe not easily, but yeah, I'm going to take that back, because I know a lot of Xbox fans are going to get upset that I said that, because maybe it is a bit of an exaggeration. But I do believe that if Sony decided with PlayStation Plus Extra, if Sony said, we're doing the Game Pass model, we're putting all of our games day and date into PlayStation Plus Extra for $15 a month, we're making it available on PC, available on mobile, and hopefully available on TVs in the future, you're going to tell me that Sony's not going to suddenly skyrocket and be right up there with Game Pass? Oh, they absolutely will. They absolutely will. And I honestly think that's kind of why Sony is just letting Microsoft do this, because I could be wrong. Sony could do that, and it could not work for them. But I just feel like, you know, people get so excited at the notion of certain games launching into Game Pass, like, I get to play, Starfield day one. I get to play Redfall. It's like, well, what if Sony matched that? And it's like, you can play The Last of Us Part 1. You can play God of War. You can play, these huge AAA games from Sony. I'm telling you, I think all I'm trying to say is I think Sony could very easily compete. I'm not saying that they would crush Game Pass instantly or anything like that. I'm just saying I think that they could very easily compete. But then the question arises, could Sony sustain that? Now, that's one area where I do believe Sony, when they're like, yeah, we can't sustain this, Pragmatic Cat, you're saying Sony's tired of being the bad guy. They've decided to embrace it alongside their premium image and increase the price of the PS5. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying, is it's like, it really does seem like Sony has truly embraced. And I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be that upset if they did this, only because it's like, okay, you made your choice, and I can respect that. The one thing that's been driving me nuts with Sony is they seemingly can't decide what they want to do. It's like one day they're the bad guy that's like, one day they're the good guy that's like, the play at home initiative. We're going to give out games for free. And, we're going to try to create this image of we're giving you a good value. We're giving you a good deal, and then the next day it's like, oh yeah, and they did it at the beginning of the PS5 where it's like free upgrade for Miles Morales from PS4 to PS5 and Horizon. And then the next day they're like, yeah, we're gonna charge a $10 upgrade fee, and we're gonna make The Last of Us Part 1 $70, how it's gonna be, and we're gonna raise the price of the PS5. And it's like, Sony, look, if you really want to like go in this direction, just own it. Like, I would just rather them own it. Don't sugarcoat it. Like, make it clear. We are the premium product, and that's what we will be no matter what. If you are expecting deals here, like good deals, like you're going to get from, what our competitors doing, don't, because that's not what we're doing here. But then they do something like PlayStation Plus Extra, and it's like, yeah, that's a great deal, but you need a PS5, and the PS5's price just got raised. So it's like, well, technically you can get it on the PS4 as well, but there are some games that are, on PlayStation Plus Extra that are only available on the PS5. So it really is just this. I'm not advocating for it. Like, I'm not saying I want Sony to be greedy as hell. I want them to be able to listen to the fan base and be willing to be malleable to a degree. But it's just, it feels like they don't want to, and they're kind of not. Like, you know what I mean? That's I think what I'm trying to say here, where it's like, the only reason the upgrade from Horizon for the PS4 to the PS5 is free is because they got called out on it. Is because they literally forgot that they said they would give it to us for free. They forgot. They said it's going to be a $10 upgrade free, and everybody lost their shit because they're like, bro, you said it was like, wouldn't it have just been smarter of Sony to just from the get-go, just like with the $70 price tag Band-Aid ripoff, if this is what you're going to do, just do it, man. Just do it. Stop jerking your customers around and trying to make it seem like you're trying to compete with Microsoft, because the more Sony does this, the more I think the worse it makes them look. This is why I'm saying with Nintendo, why do you think nobody really complains? I'm not saying nobody complains about Nintendo anymore, but it just seems like, Nintendo drew their line in the sand. Nintendo drew their line in the sand and they said, this is what we're doing, man. You're either with it or you're against it. We don't care. And I'm not saying people respect that, like what they're doing necessarily, but they can at least be like, oh, okay, well, now I know I'm either going to walk away or I'm going to just embrace it and say, fine, And I just get frustrated because it just seems like ever since the start of this generation, Sony and Jim Ryan, he's like, we got to always be ready to pivot. And it's like, okay, but you're like really only going in one direction. Like, you're saying one thing at times and you're doing another, and it just doesn't look good. So I know it's not black and white. I see somebody saying it's not black and white. I know that. And I know that these things are complex and they're complicated, but I feel like if your customer base, I don't know if you guys saw, go to the PlayStation blog. Okay. I have it up here actually. The PlayStation blog where they say August 25th, PS5 price increase, 509 comments. And it's a complete shit show. One of the top comments, I already have a PS5 and I'm still offended by this. It's just and it's just like, dude, this is on the PlayStation blog, for God's sake, like the biggest fans only get, the people who actually really care are going to the PlayStation blog, it's crazy. Anyway, let me keep these going here. William, you're saying there's more to it than that. You have to understand the price of copper is up 30%. TSCM semiconductors are up 30%. Shipping costs are double. The Japanese yen has fallen drastically against the USD. I know that. Like, I know the, yen in particular, it's not good compared to USD, but this is where it's like, something I've seen a couple people bring up that I was like, this actually I think would have been a smart move is Sony, I think, could have been maybe a little bit more nuanced in their approach with this, where it's like, if you really feel like you have to increase the price, maybe only increase the price in regions where it's absolutely necessary. Like if people are technically getting a deal of like, you're getting a PS5 for technically $360, okay. Like if you have to raise the price in like that region a little bit, okay, fine. But maybe in regions where it didn't have to be necessarily the price, like why not just do bundles? Like look at the Horizon Forbidden West bundle. That's being sold for $50 more. You are paying $50 more. And it doesn't, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't cost Sony anything to include Horizon Forbidden West. That's their game. It costs them $0 to put that in the box as a digital code. They're charging you $50 more. And nobody really cared about that. Like nobody really complained about that. So Sony, maybe instead just release bundles for $50 more. You know, you're still getting that price increase. You're including a game that costs you $0 to put in, you know? But, you know, I guess there is also the duality of, well, what if that person would have bought the increased PS5 price or the PS5 for the increased price and also the game? Well, there you go. I mean, then I guess that explains. And William, I understand what you're saying here. And again, I do understand why they're doing this. But it's like, I feel like what you're saying, though, again, like what you're saying, it does also apply to every other company and corporation. And I don't know, man. I guess what I will say is this. It seems like surely Sony was aware of how big of a hit this was going to be to them from a PR standpoint. Like, there's no way they didn't see the tidal wave of negativity coming. So all I can say is that if they foresaw that and they still decided we got to do it, then I will give Sony this. There may be a reason on a deeper level here that we don't actually know about, because that's just crazy. Like, that's crazy. Like, just their marketing team was probably turning to the higher up executives at Sony like, guys, if you do this, it's going to be bad. Like, it's going to be real bad. But they must have decided that, hey, man, we got to. We have to. And that's, I don't know. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, aren't they facing a lawsuit for billions? Yeah, that's another situation. That has to do with like digital game prices. And look, all I'm going to say about this, because a lot of people have been asking me, they're like, MBG, how come? Real quick, Irfan, you're saying they just need a showcase and everyone will forget about the price, MBG. Hello. I hate to say it, but you're absolutely correct. And I think Sony knows that. Dude, I'm only going to talk about the Sony lawsuit very briefly. Very briefly. And I do see people asking me to move on to the next topic. Relax. I just need to get through these super chats, and I will. But I just want to say in regards to that lawsuit, so I'm not getting into the nitty gritty details of that because I'm going to be honest, based off of my understanding and what I've looked into, it doesn't look like it's going to get off the ground. Like there's not enough there. But if there was ever ever something that should tell you two things, and I've told you guys this from day one, and seeing lawsuits like this pop up, essentially Sony's being sued for apparently overcharging, quote unquote, overcharging by like 30% on the digital storefront in the UK. But again, there's just like not nearly enough there for this to get off the ground. I've always told you guys, do not buy a digital console if you do not have to. Because once you go digital, like when that's your only way to buy games, you will I'm not saying you'll never get a good deal, but if your chances of being able to find a better deal go down dramatically. Like if you are locked into a digital only console and you want to buy a game like let me see, like let's just say Control Ultimate Edition. I'm looking at my games here, right? And let's just say it's like, I don't know how much it is on the store. Let's just say it's $40. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way. And you have a digital only console. Your only way of getting that game is for $40 through the store, or you have to wait until maybe it eventually goes on sale. If you were to have a disc-based console, You saw that the price on the PS Store is $40. You could probably go online. Maybe you go to Amazon, maybe you go to GameStop or Best Buy, and you see, oh wait, they have it for like $15 here or $20. You see what I'm saying? Like, and this is exactly why that lawsuit's not going to get off the ground, because it's not like Sony is forcing people. Sony is not forcing people to buy games digitally. They are not forcing you to buy a digital only console. As long as these deals exist, as long as there's not some kind of actual monopoly at play here, then it's not going to get taken off the ground, because the reality is Sony is able to charge. And also, if I'm not mistaken, Sony's charging the same price as other publishers in the UK, like Microsoft and Nintendo. So anyway, if you are able to buy a disc-based console, absolutely do it. And always be ready and willing to check prices on, from different sellers. It is true that more and more people are going digital, but guys, we have to try our best to, I don't want to say, I'm just going to say we have to fight against that, because when that day comes, man, when the day comes when like 99% of people are buying digitally and like physical's just kind of going away, that's not going to be good, man. It's just not. Also, you could make an argument. Sony could make an argument, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I'm not claiming to know anything about the legality of all this. I'm not a lawyer by any means. But if I'm not mistaken, I would assume that Sony could also make the argument that the reason why people might pay more for digital games or on the digital store is for the sake of convenience. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's a good reason, but I think they technically could say that, because if you were to ask people why they're buying digitally, like the reality is people are still buying games digitally right now for more money when they do not have to. They are making a conscientious choice. Sony's not holding a gun to their head. These better deals exist right there for them. And this is what protects Sony. It also gives me hope that it means physical will stay for good, because it does seem like if the day were to ever come where you could no longer purchase games physically from a storefront, like if the PlayStation Store was truly like the only way you play a PlayStation game is buying it digitally through their digital storefront, I think Sony would absolutely begin to run the risk of, that this could be trouble for you, depending on how you handle that. So, but yeah, physical for life, guys, at least for video games. I've went digital with music. I've went digital with watching movies and shows, but for me, gaming has always been different and always will be different. Okay, let me see here. Subtext, you're saying, I respect that Sony keeps it real and makes it clear that they are here to make money versus Microsoft pretending to run a nonprofit, makes good products, get my money. Yeah, but dude, that's where you have to play the game, because they're playing the game. Everybody's playing the game. We're part of the game, whether we want to be. Perception does matter, man. It may not matter at the end of the day. Ultimately, it's not like Sony increasing the price of the PS5 means that, well, this console is not going to sell more than 50 million now. Like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Sony knows this. We know this. But it does mean that, well, now Microsoft has another advantage. They can say, we didn't increase the price of our console. That's one reason why you might want to consider ours over the competition. I will say this, guys, If there's one, there is actually another positive here. I know maybe it's a stretch, and I know some people might cringe at me saying this, but I'm just keeping it real as somebody who's going to continue to support PlayStation until they, stop doing the one thing that I support them for, which is making great games. The one thing I could get from this is this does give us a reason to push Sony, to expect more from Sony. Does it not? Because if Sony's going to be like, yo, we're raising our price and their competition isn't, I've seen a lot of people saying, they're like, dude, Sony does have the advantage of being able to say, we kind of released a lot more games for our console since it released. And the truth is, Sony could have sold the PS5 for $600 at launch and it would have done just as good. That's the crazy reality of this. So if anything, Sony's probably kicking themselves in the ass for not doing that. But I will say this does give us a reason to put, to basically have higher expectations. I've seen quite a few people say, Sony, you better have a phenomenal showcase because you need it now. Like, that's the only way you're going to make this right. And I agree. And it's like, look, if you're going to increase the price, give people a reason to be okay with that price. And I think that that's the problem right now. Sony kind of, they announced the price hike at a time when it's like everything's quiet. They got The Last of Us Part 1. Maybe they're like, we'll just put this alongside The Last of Us Part 1. They're both, it's already a PR nightmare. We'll let this just kind of have its own space and then we'll move on from it. KD, you're saying, MBG, knock it off. Microsoft tried to double the price of online and Nintendo hasn't dropped the prices of their games in years. Stop focusing on the negatives. Well, hey man, that's the thing, KD. I'm not just focusing on the negatives here because we are going to talk about a PlayStation showcase. But dude, you have to understand too that like in a way, you are kind of pointing out why we need to always push against this a little bit, man. Because, you talk about Microsoft tried to double the price of their Xbox Live Gold. Yeah, they did. They tried, and they would have loved to have gotten away with that. And it was us, man. It wasn't Sony. Sony didn't come out and be like, see, everybody, Microsoft sucks. Sony was probably back there being like, oh, I hope this goes through because that means we could double our price too. It's like, you see what I'm saying? This is why it's like we have to push against these corporations no matter who they are. Whether it's Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft, because you talk about Nintendo, they haven't dropped the prices of their games in years. That's true, man. And for a lot of people, that does suck. And it's like, you're always going to have to pay the same price. Again, I respect that firm, like, this is what we're doing, and this is how it's going to be, because we said so. I do respect that to a degree, but at the same time, it's like, when the opportunity arises that if we push hard enough to get to make a difference with some of these decisions, we should try. I think it's just that, I just think that sometimes where things get hairy and messed up is when people who are actually not trying to advocate for something good, but, wolves in sheep's clothing, I guess you could say, where it's like, you don't actually care about this brand. You don't care about this platform. You don't even play these games. You don't play on this platform. And yet they like kind of try to squeeze themselves in and be like, yeah, Sony sucks. They're the worst. And death to Sony. And it's like, you know what I mean? Where you can kind of see the difference between the two. Like, for example, when Microsoft did try increasing the price of Xbox Live, they like tried to double it. It's like, there were those who were like genuinely like, Microsoft, you are making a huge mistake. You can't do this. And then there were those that were like, this is why Sony is God. And it's like, dude, you have to realize Sony would absolutely do this too if Microsoft gets away with it. Like, like you're taking the wrong angle here, man. People do the exact same thing, towards Sony. And that's what Microsoft is exploiting right now because they can. Willie Maglor, again, you're saying Microsoft doesn't need to increase the cost because only USA buys Xbox, which has the strongest currency. Every country uses USD to compare conversion rates in Japan. Yen lost drastic value. That I will say, William, that is a good point too. And I have to admit that I did not consider that. I did not, that does explain why Sony didn't raise the price in the US because, well, the USD is, holding its value, and also Xbox is their main competition here. So yeah, that probably wouldn't have killed PlayStation, but it would have immediately given, I think, Microsoft a massive boost in the US if Sony decided to. The dude says you're so. I don't know what that word is sometimes. You have no idea of economics and currency exchange. I mean, dude, like I said, I'm not claiming to be like, you have to understand, dude, it's not my job. It's not. Like, I know I run a PlayStation YouTube channel and I know like that we cover this stuff, but you have to understand, it's not my job to be sympathetic towards a corporation and their economic realities. It's not. Okay, just like I don't expect anybody who's clicking on one of my videos or watching any of my content, like I don't expect you guys to be understanding of my entire livelihood and everything that goes on in my life, and that's why you have to be totally understanding of every decision I make. That's not how this works. It's not. The only people who should be totally and completely understanding, as far as I'm concerned, of the economic realities for a $1 billion corporation are those who were involved with that $1 billion corporation. I'm a consumer. Like, Sony doesn't give me stuff, guys. Like, I'm not getting The Last of Us Part 1 for free. I'm not sitting here playing that shit. No, I got to pay for that out of my own pocket because I want it that way, because that's how I'm going to know. Like, I'm going to give you a completely fair opinion. Like, was this worth it? Yes, I do have a little bit of incentive because I have a channel here and it's in my best interest to do it for the sake of my channel and content. But it's like, you know, this is where I never want it to be in that position, because to me, it's just, you know, I don't need to be given shit by Sony to feel that extra pressure of, well, like, hopefully they don't blacklist me if I say something negative. Like, dude, I'm pretty like, it's, to me, that's just not how it works. You know, I'm a consumer, and I have zero tolerance. I'm going to be real right now. I have zero tolerance for a $1 billion corporation to speak to me, their customer, and use terms like inflation and trying economic times as a justification for why they need to remain as profitable as they can, while I'm simultaneously looking at the rising prices of everything as well and seeing how, well, you know, I might be falling on hard times too. Other people are certainly falling on hard times too. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, that's all I'm saying, man, is it's like, just whatever. I'm not saying that means we should be ignorant. I also just want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for ignorance. I'm not saying just because I'm the consumer, that means I should be ignorant to everything. No, but you better believe, like, I'm not going to go digging through every nuanced piece of information to have a complete 110% roundabout understanding where it's like, well, now I'm in the exact same mind frame of the executive at Sony who made this decision. He's being paid to make that decision. Understand that. That person is being paid a yearly salary to make that fucking decision. This is where I get annoyed, where it's like, people need to chill out and stop fucking defending $1 billion corporations, because they are not your friend. They will not give a shit if your house forecloses. They're not going to come in and be like, well, you supported us for years and did all this. They don't care. This is how this works. And this is why I get so frustrated at Microsoft at times too, for trying to come off as such a nice guy. Because it's like, they're also a corporation. It's frustrating. That's all. I get frustrated because it's like, guys, I'm not saying we need to be negative purposely. I'm not advocating for that. In fact, I'm advocating for the opposite of that. But just be careful. Just be careful what you're choosing to defend. That's all. Let me see here. Magnet Visuals are saying, when you put a $550 PS5 next to scalper prices, it sounds like a deal as long as they are readily available in stores. It's actually an incentive. Yeah, well, that's the thing, dude. It's like, look, I'm not saying that people weren't already paying higher prices. Like, the funniest joke I saw were people basically saying, yo, Sony saw those scalper prices, just like, we got to get in on this. And it's like, yeah, I get it. It doesn't have to be that ultra serious at all times. And it's true that gaming is a luxury. Gaming is not a necessity. And I'm not saying that Sony needs to be understanding of that. I'm not expecting Sony to care about how much money somebody's making or what position they're in. But that's what I'm saying. It's not a two-way street. It's not a two-way street. Sony doesn't care if I'm falling as a consumer on hard times. I'm not going to care if they're falling on hard times, bro. You know, like, it's, if anything, Sony's just making it clear we all got to look out for ourselves out here, right? You can't expect, you know, I don't know how else to phrase it. All right, let me see here. Let me keep this going. because I do want to move on to the next topic. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying, but the PS5 price is not increasing price in the USA. I live in Europe where they do raise the price, but at the same time, we are seeing consoles in shops. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, like, we're going to talk. That's the last piece of this that I'm going to talk about before I move on, about how a video game analyst came out and basically claimed that, you know, this price increase is almost like it's really not going to affect the PS5 in a negative way, which I do find interesting because that might give us a little bit more insight into like why Sony decided to take the PR hit here. William, you're saying Xbox doesn't ship Xbox in Europe or Japan or Australia, where their currencies have fallen 30% against USD. Sony has to deal with all those currency conversion rates. And again, William, like I get that. I get that. Look, keep in mind, like I don't expect anything from Sony other than just keep making great games. You know, like it's not like I'm sitting here saying, wow, I am shocked. Like truly at my core, like this is the most unbelievable. I know maybe I acted like this a little bit, but I put a tweet out where I was like, wow, Sony increasing the price of the PS5 is the most Jim Ryan thing ever. And people were like defending Jim Ryan, like it wasn't his fault, it's not his decision. It's like it was a joke. Like you have to understand the point I'm trying to make is that this, yeah, it's not totally surprising to see Sony operating this way. And Sony is making it clear that this is about profitability. In fact, I would argue that Jim Ryan, even though he seems to try to play both sides, he's definitely leaned more on the side of we're about profitability, you know? Let me see. Saying Sony's not raising prices, currency is losing value. Yeah, but again, you do have to think about how this translates to the consumer. You know, it's like, if you think about it, this just kind of boils down to like, I just don't think the consumer should be expected to fully understand or be okay with, you know, that notion. That notion is true. It is a fact, but you know, I don't like what I mean to say is I don't think that negates the consumer who's like, wow, that's pretty fucking annoying. And I'm annoyed by that. You know what I mean? Let me see. Okay, I have to start moving through these, which I appreciate, guys. I really appreciate those super chats, but I gotta get it moving here because if I don't, I'm gonna be stuck on this topic for the whole podcast. All right, King 2022, especially worse in the UK where there's a financial crisis going on and people are struggling to pay for basic needs. Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that's like, well, if you're struggling with your basic needs, you definitely shouldn't be worried about video games. But I sympathize with people. Like, dude, come on, video games, you guys know, like, I'm not saying they're a priority, but people who are passionate about video games, even when you fall in like hard times financially, it still sucks. Like, you know, like it still sucks that like you can't play video games and you can't, you know, like that really sucks. I know it's not a luxury, or it is a luxury thing, but what I'm trying to say is I still sympathize with people where it's like, yes, you can have bigger problems in life and still be a gamer. And I feel for you, you know, like you want to be able to play video games. You want to be able to enjoy video games. So I get that. Primal Plasma, you're saying the worst part is that they didn't raise the price of PS5 in the USA. Now there will be no PS5s available in the USA because they will be resold overseas. Well, yeah, as a consideration. We'll have to see how that plays out. KD, you're saying all this goodwill talk is over dramatic. BS, LOL. Everyone will forget about all this when the showcase comes. What is goodwill? Got Microsoft 2 years with no games. Damn, bro. Microsoft just went a full year releasing nothing on Game Pass. Okay, KD, I see where you're coming from. I got to give you credit here where I will agree with you that you're right, man. Goodwill has essentially allowed Microsoft to go almost like pretty much all of 2022 without any major hit game release. And people are actually like on their side. It's crazy. People are like, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Game Pass." And you know, when they come, they're going to be great and they're going to be cheap. And it's like, God damn. that is an insane amount of goodwill that Microsoft has garnered there. But you know what adds to that is every time Microsoft can come out and be like Liza P day one Game Pass, that's more goodwill for them, dude. You know, that's more goodwill. All right. So thank you for that, Katie. Always bids, you're saying MBG, Sony doesn't have Microsoft money. Sony increases the PS5 costs like all GPU manufacturers do to global cost. MBG, $50 PS5 rent. All in fun money. No, I hear you always. I get what you're saying. And you say Switch has been $250 for 5 years. Microsoft has trillions. I know. Look, I know. I can't help it. It's in my nature, man. Like I'm not. I know that this whole rant has made it seem like I hate Sony. It's not that. It's just I just can't help but be on the consumer side of things. You know, it's just in my nature to do so, where I know, again, like this is just how it's going to be, but I feel for those who are frustrated, and I just don't feel right being that person that's like, I already have my PS5, so sucks for you guys. You know, like I'm not saying that's what you guys are doing, but I'm just saying, like, if I had to pick a way to be, I just feel like Sony, Jesus, please just eat the cost, you know, like throw some goodwill. That's all. Planet Schloiprian, you're saying some people believe Game Pass will come to PS5 in the same way people believe that the earth is flat and dinosaurs walked alongside man. Yeah, dude, that's never going to happen. That would be an insane. I would love to know what would have to happen to Sony for that to be a reality one day. But yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But now that we've said that, now that MBG has stated it's never going to happen, it's going to happen. Steven Noaka, thank you for the $5. Blue Streak 320, you're saying if Amazon buys EA, do you think they would copy Microsoft and put those games on Prime? Dude, I saw that and I chose not to cover it because it was just an up and down. It was an immediate seesaw rumor where it came out that Amazon was getting ready to buy EA, and then literally an hour later, it's like, actually, they're not. So I was just like, but for a moment there, I was like, oh shit, dude. Like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, what if this is Amazon's way of being like, we got our own content? Now, I think with like sports games, they won't be able to do that, but that would be very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Kind of glad. I don't know if I feel like I'm kind of glad it didn't happen though, and hopefully it still doesn't. Axis Talk saying MBG looking like a nerd studying economics. Thanks, man. Always busy. You're saying Nintendo avoids this because their fans are kids or cults, or it's a secondary device. They've been paying $350 for 5 years, and their $60 is PS $70. Yeah, that's true. You know, the one thing you can say about Sony with their $70 price point is their games do depreciate in value. Like, they do go down in price. I can't say SMGOFDVLD. I don't know how to say that, but you're saying people don't want to add politics, but that part plays a part. Do your research. No, I have no doubt about that, man. It goes a lot deeper than what we're just covering here today. That's for sure. Zanarcan Blitzer, you're saying MBG, calm down and keep hydrated. Sony Canada increased the PS4 console by $50 in 2014, and in 2007, PS3 console increased by $40. Both reasons with a weaker Canadian dollar currency. Gaming is a luxury. Yeah, I guess the part about this that seems unprecedented though is how it's like Sony's just like almost across the board except the US. Because that's true. It's not like we haven't seen certain consoles raise their price in different regions before. I think even Xbox has, but it's like, you know, this was a bit of a different situation because it was just all at one time. And you could argue, again, this does kind of fall in line with Sony just being like, we're ripping the damn Band-Aid off and we don't care. You know? They're the timing, though. You got to love that timing with Sony. They're so strategic with what they're doing. Alien Tenno, you're saying, do you buy / listen to your music on CD or download? No, I do use Spotify, and that's where I said earlier, you know, I still, when it comes to other forms of media, music, movies, TV. I do have a slight Blu-ray collection. I do have some CDs, believe it or not, and a slight Blu-ray collection. So I do have a decent, I'd say I have more physical media than the average person for sure. But I do mostly consume my music through Spotify. And again, like I can see the benefit. But I also, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I feel like in some areas, the quality has taken a hit, dude. You know, like I don't know if it's oversaturation possibly that is creating that illusion. Because I do still find good music. I do still find good shows, but it really feels like it's less and less. And also, we have to be fair here. And these different forms of media, you know, like developing a video game, like a AAA big budget video game, is very different than producing a, you know, I don't think they call it like a AAA album necessarily. I don't know if they use that same terminology, but a big album or a big budget Hollywood movie. They're all very different processes. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm not willing to take that risk, man. You know, I'm not willing to see Sony be like, oh, we'll just try this and could be the worst thing we ever do for our games, you know? But they may still one day. MBG, how confident are you that Kojima's Overdose or new game will be at the next PlayStation showcase? I don't know, man. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Kojima out here sipping on some champagne with the two head executives of heads of marketing at all of Sony. No reason. No reason at all. Just Kojima hanging out with the heads of marketing at Sony because that's just what they do. That's just what they do, bro. That's just what they do. Those are just his homies. Yeah, of course. It was his birthday. Of course it was. Dude, that's all I said, bro. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying he's just hanging out. He's just hanging out. No, I know. I'm messing around. Honestly, I do expect Kojima to be part of PlayStation Showcase. Whether or not Overdose is that, I don't know. I don't know, but I do think that Kojima's still working with PlayStation, and regardless of, you know, I know I get a little bit weird because it's like I'm reading into everything, like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, and we know that I've been following Kojima for a long time, and so far it's just led, unfortunately, to him and for us anyway, to him announcing his partnership with Xbox. But I do think he'll be part of the PlayStation Showcase. I would be pretty surprised if he wasn't. Mainly because I really do think I want to say he's doing something with PSVR 2. I get this feeling that that's something he would be interested in doing. And I also get the feeling that that's something Sony would really push for him to want to do. Only because it's like, I just feel like it would be a big win for Sony to be like, we got Kojima for our new VR headset, you know, whatever it might be. I do wonder though, like, if it would end up being something like Death Stranding VR edition, what that would be like. But I do think he'll be there, man. That wasn't a super chat, but that did catch my my eye. Always busy. You're saying spent days looking for my copy of The Last of Us Part 2. My glasses keep getting caught up on my hat. Calling friends and family, mad to see who I gave it to, only to remember I bought it digitally. Hashtag no more digital. Wow, dude. That's pretty funny. That's funny. Imagine that. Where's my game? I know I had this game. I know I bought this game. I know I own this game. And you bought it digitally and didn't remember. I love it. Sewell, you're saying, finally got a moment to get away from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. What is going on with the PlayStation front? Did I miss Final Fantasy talk? Well, there hasn't been much Final Fantasy talk, Sewell. I completed my journey with Final Fantasy 7. And on the PlayStation front, I'd say right now fans are feeling a little bit antsy, a little bit, you know, some are excited for The Last of Us Part 1. I'd say in general, most PlayStation fans are waiting to see what's next for Sony, and they're hoping for some exciting announcements. By the way, guys, we have over 840 people here hanging out with me. Please do me a favor. hit that like button. I think we're at 200 and something likes, but we could easily crush 500 if everybody contributes. So crush that like button for me. Let YouTube know that you enjoy the podcast. Really appreciate that. So thank you for that, Sewell. Final Fantasy talk. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it at the upcoming showcase. We'll have to see, bud. Himanshu Yadav, you're saying, MBG, my PS5 wasn't turning on, man. I got scared so much, but as soon as I put my credit card in, $50 got deducted, and it started working perfectly fine. I love it, man. I love that. That's how it's going to be in the future. I don't know. I get your joke, man, but I feel like that's what it would be like if EA made a console. You know, I know Sony, you know, they're not totally innocent. Sony has a bit of greed, but I don't think they're at that level yet. But appreciate that super chat, man. Lightening things up a little bit. Hickzock, you're saying Xbox devaluing industry is more damaging than $50. Yeah, dude. Again, we've talked, but to be fair, you do have to understand, Hickzock, we have talked about that at length. We've talked all about the potential negatives and downsides of the long-term consequences. You know, the long-term price to be paid for something like Game Pass, and devaluing games to a degree. Yeah, that could be part of it. Yeah, sorry, Hickzock. I'm running really behind with these super chats. But again, thank you guys so much for the incredible support. It really does mean a lot to me, seriously. And especially because I know, you know, talking about all this, I know a lot of people are falling on hard times and a lot of people struggling. And so the fact that, you know, so many of you can still show up here and show your support directly, I just don't want you to think I take it for granted, because I definitely don't. And it's an honor and a privilege, for as cliche as that may sound, it really is, to be able to do what I do here. So thank you guys. I'm not saying your name again. SMGO. Dude, how do you, I can't pronounce this. Smog. Yeah, I'm not saying your name, but you're saying PS5 stock is getting up there. Time will tell. I have seen it increase, man. I have seen it increase. So I think we're going to see a massive increase going into the holiday season for God of War. I do. I really think so. That and Modern Warfare 2. Sony wants a piece of that pie while they can still get it, you know, a bigger piece, I should say. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, I like to know I own the game instead of rushing or being forced to play because they have an expiration date. Yeah, dude, that's why I buy physical too. It's not even just about full ownership, but to me, there's just a different. And I've really been thinking about this, because I have seriously been thinking about, like, should I go digital? You know, I've had that thought a couple times, because I'm like, if it's really is the future, like everybody says, and, you know, it does offer certain conveniences, but I just can't. The reason why I can't do it is because there's something that just doesn't feel the same. There is just something about buying a game, whether it's through the mail or picking it up at a store, you know, taking the wrap off of it, and just, I don't know, it adds another layer that really, when I've bought games digitally, it's just missing that essence. It may sound silly to some people, and I totally understand why it does, but I also know that many people know exactly what I'm talking about as well when I talk about, you know, buying games. And I love seeing them on my shelf and seeing the collection grow. There's just something so awesome about it. There's something truly satisfying about it. And the fact that, you know, I know I have full ownership over these games as well, you know, it definitely helps too. I mean, I would say, I honestly would say that's probably the number one reason, like, you know, but it's, I guess what I mean to say is I never bought a digital game yet. And this is just, I know that for some people they have experienced this, but I've never bought a digital game yet where I felt like I didn't own it necessarily, except for those few times. And I actually, you know what? Let me take this back. And I'm going to move on to the next topic. How many of you have experienced where you have like a couple digital games, or maybe it was one digital game you were playing and like the PSN was down or something like that, and there was just a little lock on the game? It was locked. You could not open the game. You could not play it. Even if it wasn't a multiplayer game. If it was just a single player game, you couldn't do it. that was like a big kind of wake up call for me where I'm like, I am not buying games digitally if I don't have to, because that's crazy to me. That's crazy that I have to wait for the PlayStation Network to come back up before I can access this single player game on my console. So, all right, let me see here. Andrew, you're saying maybe Embracer will buy PlayStation and let Game Pass on. I don't see that happening either, man. I don't. Reyes, you're saying, where the hell is that MGS3 remake? I need it. Yeah, dude, I'm waiting for that too. Apparently, the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is a real thing, but it hasn't been formally announced yet. Maybe it'll show up at the PlayStation Showcase, or maybe it's just not ready yet. Maybe it'll be announced next year. All right, we are going to move on to the next topic, though. And this one, so I'll leave it to you guys. Let me know in the chat. I have 3 main topics we can discuss. I'll let you choose which one we're going to go for next. We could talk about the rumored PlayStation Showcase. We could talk about Hogwarts Legacy and it offering some PlayStation exclusives and how this is causing quite a bit of controversy. Or we could talk about the DualSense Edge controller. Which are you choosing? Which topic do you want me to go for next? So I see somebody saying Showcase, one for Hogwarts. I will get to all of them at some point. PS Showcase, DualSense Showcase, the fake Showcase, Hogwarts Showcase. Right now I'm seeing Showcase more than anything else. Okay, so we'll do the Showcase topic next. And then after that, I think we'll do Hogwarts and then the Edge controller. Black Waifus, member for 12 months. Thank you, man. Play has no limits. You're saying enough gaming. Name your favorite 90s movie. MBG in chat. The Matrix, dude. For me, it's got to be. But there's so many good movies. Oh, man. But the first one that just jumps out at me is The Matrix. The Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time. That was a very late 90s movie. Yeah, Jurassic Park. Yeah. Saving Private Ryan. Oh, that's a good one, dude. That's a good one. Forrest Gump. A lot of good ones. All right, let me see here. We got Mark Tech. You're saying, have been buying digital games exclusively for 5 years and never had a bad experience. By default, single player games shouldn't ask for verification right away. Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. It's like I'm not the type of person that will like be like, oh, what? You go, oh yeah, Terminator 2. Oh, how could I forget? I'm not the type of person that'll be like, what? You went all digital? What's wrong with you? You know, there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person. I'm not like that. Everybody has their own reasons for choosing what they choose. And I can very much understand why somebody would go all digital. I can understand that. It's not for me, but hey, man, that's what you chose and it's been good for you. So I hope it stays that way, dude. Like, I don't want to see anything bad happen. Truly. That would suck. But let me see. We have Unintended Studios. You're saying, I loved physical, but after PSVR, I went digital for gaming. It got real annoying having to keep readjusting the headset to change games. You may feel the same way with PSVR 2. Yeah, that's something to consider as well. I do wonder if maybe I will end up feeling the same way and maybe being like, maybe for VR2 I'll go digital, but I don't know. I'll have to experience it. I'm going to go into PSVR 2 though, buying games physically, and we'll take it from there. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's talk about this rumored PlayStation Showcase. So for those who are not caught up or up to speed yet, there is a rumor that Sony is hosting a PlayStation Showcase on September 8th. So that is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's basically 11 days from now. So a little less than 2 weeks. And, I think a lot of people were skeptical of this at first. Even I was skeptical. And I thought, we always hear about the showcase rumors, but something that was worth paying attention to with this particular rumor is the fact that we are getting a specific date. That doesn't happen that often. But it's the date in particular that makes the most sense. It's not on a Monday. No. The 8th would be September 8th would be on a Thursday. So right off the bat there, okay, Thursdays are usually days where Sony likes to have showcases or state of plays. So that lines up. But apparently the reason why Sony is choosing this day is because we talked about the upcoming Disney D23 event. At this Disney D23 event, this is like Disney's big yearly event. They're going to have a whole section dedicated to just Marvel games. And I want to point out, people were saying like, no, dude, I don't think Spider-Man 2 is going to be there. I don't think Spider-Man 2 is going to be at this Marvel event. Dude, they're celebrating Spider-Man's 60th anniversary. Like, it's going to be there. There's no way it's not there. And to me, that's just kind of a dead giveaway that we're going to see Spider-Man 2 at this event, at the Disney event, the Disney Marvel Games event. However, this is exactly why I fully believe that the 8th, because Disney's event, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, it's happening on September 9th. So that's Friday. So this is why it would make complete sense for Sony to want to do their event on the 8th. RU46N2 Ray says Kojima podcast starts that day as well. It sure does, dude. It sure does. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, because if there's something that we have learned over the past year is that when it comes to any discussion regarding Kojima, well, you better be prepared for some insane coincidences to occur. So you're saying, I don't know, let's investigate, MBG. Well, I don't know how much there is to investigate here. I mean, look, if you want my thoughts on Kojima's podcast, the first episode of his podcast that he promoted at Gamescom, he's clearly going to have something good to talk about. It's his first episode. It's a Spotify exclusive. He's making a big deal about it. If Sony does have their showcase that day and Kojima Productions is going to be part of it, then we're probably, dude, I'm telling you, what if Sony was just like, you know what? We know what we got. Is it in English? Yeah, apparently it will be in English. There is a translator. What if Sony was just like, we do have Kojima and Silent Hill, and we're going to break the internet. We know that. You know what? I think we can increase the price of the PS5. I think we can do that. I think we could. I'm kidding, of course, but I was legitimately thinking of this the other day because I'm like, Sony must be sitting on some damn good reveals if they're willing to take this PR hit of a price increase of the PS5. And I'm just like, wow, yeah. Because I don't know. I'm always daydreaming about a big, Kojima reveal at the PlayStation showcase. We'll see, though. We'll see. I mean, look, I know a lot of Xbox fans try to convince, they try to convince PlayStation fans that Kojima's done with PlayStation, but let's not forget that Norman Reedus literally outed Death Stranding 2 twice, not once, twice. So, which is a little strange. It's a little strange to think about that, but I also want to point out, guys, and not to go too long on the Kojima talk, because look, I know people are tired of hearing of it, and I understand. I do, and I get tired of talking about it a little bit, but I just want to point out to people, because I see people get so frustrated, or not frustrated. I see a lot of people talk definitively, and I just want to remind everybody, guys, I know everything that happened last year with Blue Box and Abandoned and that whole crazy situation. And there were the rumors of only one thing has happened. Only one thing has happened officially with Kojima. in the past year and a half since we've been talking about this stuff. And that is he confirmed that he is working on a project with Microsoft Studios. That's it. Outside of that, we have got nothing. And so, we have no clue if he's working with PlayStation and to what extent and what he could be working on. And so I guess I am kind of eager to know if he's going to be at the PlayStation Showcase, because if he is, undoubtedly we're going to have our answer, people. I don't imagine that Kojima will be part of PlayStation Showcase and just come on and announce, yes, I'm working with PlayStation. Goodbye. If Kojima is going to be part of the PlayStation Showcase, it's, in my opinion, it's going to be because he has a game to reveal. He's going to be showing a game off. So we'll see. We'll see. I see somebody saying a cloud project. I mean, we know he's working on a cloud project with Microsoft. As to whether or not that could be extended to working on a separate cloud project with Sony, it could be a possibility. It could be. I wouldn't expect that necessarily. But other aspects about this showcase, Leia's coming up here to. Tail's always getting in my way, Leia. Overdose is the cloud project. It could be, yeah. It definitely could be. Other aspects of this showcase, though. So here's a question I have for the chat. With the upcoming PlayStation Showcase, how big of a role do you think PSVR 2 is going to play in the upcoming showcase? Because the more I think about it, the more I get the feeling that it's going to play a pretty big part. And I did say this last week on my podcast, but I feel like it's worth reiterating here once again because Sony did officially confirm. It was so weird. They just came out and randomly confirmed that it's going to be launching early 2023. So it's pretty clear at this point. Well, I mean, first of all, it was pretty clear it wasn't coming out this year. But now it's almost completely clear that, they're going to have quite a few games to show off for PSVR 2 at their showcase. I see somebody saying 1/3. That sounds about right to me. But I guess, the thing I'm really wondering is I want to know, the weight of these VR games. And, I think what I'm curious to know is how serious is Sony about trying to get people excited for VR 2? Because I remember with the PS5 showcase, dude, they went all in and they got the hype levels to a level that I'd never seen before. And that was very strategic. And I just I wonder if they're going to try to do the same thing with VR. And because of that, I just can't help but wonder, what type of VR games are we going to get exactly? Because I feel like deep down, there's a part of me that kind of feels a little bit I'm not saying Sony's going to hold back, but I don't know. I guess I just don't know what to expect. That's the thing for VR. I don't know exactly what to expect. And maybe that's a good thing because that means maybe there's a really good chance I'll be pleasantly surprised about the stuff they're going to show. Swaggy G, you're saying, how excited are you for the showcase? That's a great question, dude. It's a simple question, but it's actually a really good one because this is where I don't know. I feel like I'm of two minds here. So let me tell you. When it comes to the PlayStation Showcase, how funny would it be if there just wasn't a PlayStation Showcase? We're sitting here talking so matter-of-factly, it's it just doesn't happen. But I think it's going to happen. I want to say this too. I'm not going back to the topic, but I did just want to mention this. The reason why at this point I am 100% sure Sony's having a showcase, not a state of play, a big exciting showcase, is because when them deciding to announce a across the board price hike for the PS5, that pretty much ensures that you're gonna. They would only do it at close to a time when they're going to do something to just sweep that shit under the rug, dude. And that's exactly what Sony's about to do. But when it comes to the, how excited I am for the showcase, I'm of two minds here. On one hand, I feel like Sony has been holding back so much. It feels like they've been holding back so much for so long that I want to feel confident that this is not going to be like, we're not going to get the blog post announcement for the PlayStation showcase, and the blog post is going to say our showcase is going to be about 40 minutes long. I don't want to see that. I'm going to be real. That would automatically disappoint me. Because if Sony comes out with a 40-minute showcase, that tells me they're continuing to hold back. Because they did a 40-minute showcase last year, and I'm going to be honest, it wasn't that great, because the first 25 to 30 minutes of it was third-party stuff. It was mostly third-party stuff. And what saved that showcase, because you guys know, if you watched me live stream the showcase last year, at one point I had a bowl of popcorn, I almost threw that shit in the air. Because at one point they showed more Deathloop, and I just lost my mind. I'm like, I did not wait a year for this. You know? Like, I did not wait a year to see more Deathloop. Are you kidding me? And they saved it at the end in a big way, and we talk about that frequently. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I don't want Sony to replicate that. I really, really don't, because I'm not a fan of that type of I'm not a fan of that format. I don't want to see like 30 minutes of mostly third party or games that we've already seen ad nauseum. I don't want to see 30 minutes of that, and then Sony be like, we're going to condense like one or two major announcements in like a 10-minute chunk, you know? That just, because that, like, to me, that is what you do if you're just trying to get by. And I feel like that's why they put Wolverine in there and the first God of War trailer, because they're like, we know that people are expecting like a massive E3 level, and we're not ready to do that this year. And I do have a little bit of fear that it's going to be like that again. And you could argue that I was actually thinking about this. I was like, what if Sony does the exact same thing they did last year? And I'm not talking about PSVR 2 necessarily, but like, imagine the first 15 minutes are third-party games. And then the next 15 minutes it's for PSVR 2, which could be very exciting, depending, again, on what PSVR 2 games they have ready to go. And then the last 10 minutes, Sony basically follows the same formula that they did last year, where we're showing you the first Spider-Man 2 gameplay trailer. It's like a 3 to 4 minute trailer. Then after that, we're going to give you one surprise announcement. What if that surprise announcement was Kojima's game? And then after that, we're going to close it with like one more trailer for like Helldivers 2 or something like that, or Guerrilla Games' next title. See, when I think of it that way, suddenly I'm like, well, that doesn't sound so bad. But I get this feeling, and I get this sense from the PlayStation community. And I kind of feel this way myself too. I just get the sense that like we're gonna need to see more than that. Like we are, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why with a PlayStation showcase at the end, like towards the end of 2022 or September 2022, why Sony's gonna have to show more. It's because we know nothing, or very little, I should say. I don't want to say nothing. Like, yes, we know about Spider-Man 2. If Spider-Man 2 shows up at the PlayStation Showcase, that'll be awesome. And everybody will be super excited. I'll be excited. But we know, we know that's coming, right? And we actually expect to see it. If we see more Final Fantasy 16, right? I mean, it would be exciting again, but we know about that. Those are like the two big games for 2023. Hold on 1 second, guys. So I guess what I'm trying to say right now is outside of those two games for 2023, we don't know anything. Like, we don't know anything. And we know that there's going to be a hardware launch, but outside, I don't know, man. I'm going to be, I keep saying I'm going to be honest as if I haven't been honest. I've been honest. I guess what I'm trying to say is, to really get my thoughts straight here and to answer your question, I don't know how excited I am for a PlayStation showcase. And I only say that because I know that I've had a tendency in the past to get overly hyped, to expect like way too much. And I don't want to do that this time, but I also don't want to dampen my expectations. So I feel like the only thing I can say at this point is that, you know, I get this feeling that Sony's going to have to do more. They're going to have to do more than they did last year. And the question is, how much more are they going to do? That's I think the only question I have. Because I feel like they're going to have a bigger and better show than they did last year. But I'm just not sure, like, at this point, how much bigger and how much better I would anticipate it to be. I also will add to that, considering Sony, you know, Sony doesn't really have to do much for the remainder of 2022. What I anticipate is when they do a showcase in September, it's pretty much going to get everybody pumped for 2023. Because, I mean, yeah, they're going to show some third-party games. Yeah, they're going to show God of War, but I feel like they have to let people know, like, going into 2023, if you haven't bought a PS5, why you're going to want to buy a PS5. And if you are a PS5 owner, what you have to look forward to in 2023. So I'm excited. I just don't know exactly how excited I should be, because I don't want to go in expecting too much. I mean, if I had it my way, I would want Sony to do an hour and a half long, just colossal fucking, you know, just amazing show, right? That's what I would want. But I just don't know that they're going to be doing that. I don't. And one last thing I want to add to this. Similar to the way I like my games, I don't care about the length of the show. When I say, if Sony comes out and says that the showcase is going to be 40 minutes, the only reason I get nervous about that is because I begin to get nervous about, like, the quality of the reveals and the announcements. Like, how much time are they going to spend on games we already know about from third-party partners? You know, like, I'm not, like, that's not why I tune into a Sony show. So I automatically get nervous about that. But I also believe that the quality of the announcements matter more than how many announcements there are. So I would prefer less announcements from Sony, but the quality of what they're revealing and what they're showing, you know, like that Wolverine game from Insomniac was worth, like, that was worth easily like 3 or 4 like smaller game reveals or announcements, probably more than that, because that's like, wow, like that for me, that was like a dream come true announcement, and I feel like we don't get them very often. But I feel like that's what makes PlayStation kind of special, and that's what, in my opinion, makes people so damn excited for their showcases, because. And that's why they still didn't, even though their showcase was on the shorter side last year, and even though a lot of it was third-party games, they still won. Like, Sony still won that year with that showcase, because they just always have something, even if it's just one thing where it's like, okay, maybe nothing up until this point got you excited. Well, wait until you see what we have, because you're not going to be expecting this. And like, to me, that, I think, if I had to really hone in onto like how excited I am and like what my expectation truly is, I think what it boils down to, the more I talk about it and think about it, is I just want to see Sony do what they do best, which is when I tune into their show and they let me know, like, this is it. This is the PlayStation Studio showcase, that by the time that show is done, I witnessed something that is just going to, like, bring me to a level of excitement that no other video game publisher can bring me to, and that no other team of studios can bring me to. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And so that may sound a bit dramatic to some people, but that's why I play PlayStation, dude. I don't play PlayStation to get the best deals necessarily. I don't play PlayStation for any reason, other than I want to see something that I don't care how much it is. I don't care, I don't care when it's coming. I want it now. And you're saying so exclusives. I mean, I guess it could. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, of course. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. Like, of course, I'm going into a PlayStation showcase. Sony, I don't want to say like exclusives, because it's like if Sony announces an awesome game and it's also launching on PC, I'm not going to be like, well, I'm less excited for it now because it's on PC. Like, I'm not going to be like that, but it's from their studios is what I mean. Like, I want to see what's coming from their studios, because guys, the last announcement, the last game announcement we got from PlayStation Studios was The Last of Us Part 1. And before that, I mean, God, what was it? It was from the showcase. That was the last time. So I'm ready, man. I'm ready. And I hope their studios are ready too. I do. So, MBG, did you see the rumor the next Crash Bandicoot game may be exclusive to PlayStation? Thoughts? I actually didn't hear about that. Always busy. You're saying, I always thought Disney and Nintendo were a match, but a PlayStation partnership, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN, AAA games and services. Yeah, well, dude, speaking of Disney, you know what I'm wondering? We hear about like that studio, Amy Hennig studio, right? Like, apparently she's working on a Fantastic Four game. I've seen some people saying like, oh, this game's going to be exclusive to PlayStation. And like, I'm not expecting that, but I do wonder if Sony has like more leverage now with Disney and some of these other projects. Like, for example, I don't know, I don't think, so like EA is making a Black Panther game apparently. Like, I don't think that could be an exclusive game to PlayStation, but I do wonder if Sony could potentially negotiate something to a degree. I only say that because we know that Sony has good pull within Marvel and a very good working relationship with them and a partnership. And so I think about that. I think about if they are going to have a Fantastic Four. I'm only saying this because it seems to me that Sony likes to have, they like to have Marvel, but I say this, but then again, we did get an Avengers game from Square Enix that was multi-plat. It's like, I don't know. I feel like PlayStation fans, we got kind of lucky. I mean, I feel lucky. I do. I don't want to speak for all PlayStation fans because I know not everybody is a fan of Marvel and I know not everybody's a fan of Wolverine. But dude, it's like, I kind of don't care. I'm not saying I don't care. I do care. Like, a Fantastic Four game would be awesome. But when I tell you, I think people thought I was lying or exaggerating. When I tell you that it's like, if there was a single Marvel character that I could have had a PlayStation studio make a game on, there were other characters that were up there. Like, I'm a huge Punisher fan. I love Blade. But Wolverine was like legitimately my number one. And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope we see some Wolverine. I don't think we will. I know Spider-Man 2's got to come first. But I just wonder how these other Marvel games are going to turn out. Like, I wonder if Sony could secure the marketing for some of them. Maybe not exclusivity, but like, Amy Hennig being the creator of Uncharted, and you have to imagine like, this Fantastic Four game is going to be really good. I like wonder if Sony could have worked out a deal between Skydance Media and Disney where it's like, hey, we would like to market this game. We'll see though. We'll see, and I'm curious to see if Amy Hennig's game can like match the quality that we got with Spider-Man. You're saying you don't want too much Marvel? Yeah, well, that's just the way it is, man. I hate to say it, but if you're somebody who's like, I don't want more Marvel, we're getting more Marvel, bro. For better or for worse. I would like to see some more new IP though, and that's another reason why I'm always so supportive of PlayStation the way I am, because I mean, come on, man, like Sony, you can hate Sony for a lot of different reasons, I think, right now. But if there's one thing that I just have to give them a lot of credit for, Sony has been doing a great job with new IP. Like they really have. And I mean like big new IP. I'm not talking about like, well, I mean smaller new IP as well, but I just think in general, Sony has, I don't know, I think they've just been doing a really good job. Like I really, really, really hope, I really hope that Naughty Dog's next proper game, when they're done with, when they're done with The Last of Us multiplayer, I hope their next AAA game is a new IP, not The Last of Us Part 3 or anything like that, or not Uncharted. I would like to see new IP, because I feel like we need to see that stuff, And I think that Sony Studios like to do that, and I think that the fans love to see that stuff as well. I see somebody say Naughty Dog with the Punisher. Yeah, I mean, like, Neil Druckmann did say he would love to make a Punisher game. That would be, I mean, in terms of brutality, yeah, that would be great. But I don't think that would be a good look. Like, I think Insomniac, it's okay for them to be working on 2 Marvel games, because they like proved that, hey, look at what we did with Spider-Man. And I think it's like kind of okay for Insomniac to be the Marvel studio for now. I would also like to see a new IP from them as well eventually. But I don't want to see like more studios underneath Sony like start to work on Marvel games, because that would make me a little bit concerned that, okay, we can't get too far away here from making our own stuff and making new IP and whatnot, especially with very talented studios. All right, let me see. Magna Visuals, you're saying people are not going to leave PlayStation for Xbox because of Call of Duty. They would be paying $360 for each Call of Duty release, and they're releasing every 2 years. Game Pass is $180. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. I think Call of Duty is Call of Duty's huge, and it is to a degree. I don't want to say it's like completely unrivaled, but to a degree it is mostly unrivaled. It's just one of these IPs that's so big and known, and I'm just of the mindset, dude, like I don't know. I look at MLB The Show. Okay? MLB The Show was a game that was literally exclusive to PlayStation. It was just exclusive to PlayStation. And then it wasn't. And not only was it available on Xbox, it was available through Game Pass. When the sales data for MLB The Show came out, it turns out that it didn't matter that it was on Game Pass. It turns out that people who bought PlayStation consoles were okay paying for their game. Like, they didn't leave PlayStation and go subscribe to Game Pass. Maybe a couple of people did. Like, I'm not saying nobody did, but in general, the data proved that, wow, this game, which was once exclusive, is now being released. You're saying MLB is not as big. That's true, but I feel like in general, though, I'm not comparing MLB to Call of Duty. I'm just saying that this is one of the only instances in which I'm telling you now, man, I remember covering that. I remember I was covering the news that MLB The Show was launching on Game Pass. And do you know how many people I saw? Do you know how many people I saw that told me like, dude, everybody's going to subscribe to Game Pass for MLB now. Like Sony just lost all their MLB customers. People were saying that, dude. And I couldn't blame them. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, that's it. That could be a huge loss for Sony. And when the data came out, it's like it barely had any impact whatsoever, dude. It was still one of the best-selling games for PlayStation. So I'm just saying that, if anything, as long as Call of Duty is still available on PlayStation, like as long as a PlayStation player can buy Call of Duty when it launches and play it when it launches, I think it's going to have minimal impact. Now, if Microsoft doesn't see the type of growth with Game Pass and Call of Duty in the future, in like 2025 or 2026, it's, we're talking quite a few years from now. If they don't see the type of growth that they're hoping to see, with Call of Duty being available in Game Pass, then they could get a little bit pissed off and be like, we got to take this off of PlayStation. Which could cause problems for them for sure, if I'm not mistaken. But we're thinking in the future right now. But you're saying you're not wrong, ABG, but I'm saying the impact may be different due to COD's popularity. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like, I don't want to make it sound like no one would leave PlayStation. Of course, there would be people who leave PlayStation. But I guess I'm just saying, if it's like, if you take 100% of the people who are on PlayStation right now and buy Call of Duty and play it, when it's made available on Game Pass, I could see it maybe, I could see Sony maybe losing 20 to 25, maybe 30% of those people. But I don't think it's going to be some dramatic, like 50% of people who were buying, consoles for Call of Duty. And another reason too is because there's crossplay now. This is the exact reason why Sony didn't want crossplay, because Sony was afraid that it would make people pick a different console. And the last time I checked, crossplay has been available for a couple years. And dude, people are still buying PlayStations. I think Sony, I'm going to be honest, I think Sony underestimates their own, I don't know if they do this purposely to like try not to seem arrogant, but I think they underestimate like their own ability to just, not ability, their own weight. Like I think Sony underestimates like your PlayStation console. Like, I'm not saying get totally cocky and arrogant, but give yourself some credit here. Yeah, their impact. There we go. Their footprint. I think that they do get a little bit too like, look, Call of Duty's big. Yeah, Call of Duty's important, but come on, man. Like you're PlayStation. You are PlayStation, and PlayStation is a bigger brand than Call of Duty is. I understand that Sony makes a lot of money off of Call of Duty, and that's probably what it comes down to at the end of the day, but what was that? I'm just fooling my window. But, I guess I'm just saying ultimately here that, with everything that's going on with Call of Duty and, studio acquisitions and whatnot and services, I just think as long as Call of Duty is made available for PlayStation players to buy on the platform, I don't think Sony has anything to worry about. Now, if Microsoft gets like cheeky and they start doing something like 2 weeks early access to multiplayer through Game Pass, then Sony might have a problem. Because I could see Microsoft doing stuff like that. And Sony has tried to do similar stuff, or they do it with the beta, stuff like that, where it's like play the beta first on PlayStation. They're still doing that. And you're going to see all that stuff transfer over to Microsoft eventually, and Microsoft could take it a step further because they own it. And that's I think where you could see the difference making take process. I see somebody asking, would you rather see Bloodborne 2 or Silent Hills or Metal Gear Solid? I want to see all three, bro. I want to see everyone's dreams come true. I want to see a Bloodborne 2. I want to see a Metal Gear remake, a new Silent Hill from Kojima. I want the whole thing. I want to live in dreamland. Blurpy24. Gabriel Ortiz Jr. You're saying, what's happening, MBG? Kojima's podcast begins with P and ends with T. Coincidence? I think not. I didn't even notice that, man. That's funny as hell. Oh, dude, I can't take another coincidence. I will die if I have to deal with another coincidence, okay? So I'm just going to pretend I didn't read that, and we're going to move on here. Oh, man. All right. Sorry, guys. Let me check my phone here for a second. I got a notification. Okay, we have Blurpy24. You're saying, I bought Gran Turismo Physical and still couldn't play it when the servers were down in single player mode. See, that's the thing, dude, is most games are not like that on PlayStation. Gran Turismo is actually an exception, though. And this is why a lot of Gran Turismo players were annoyed when they heard that GT7 was going to be always online, because of exactly what you're talking about, where, you know, people were like, if the servers go down or if for whatever reason you're not connected to the internet and you have a physical disc of GT7, you want to be able to play it. Because they chose to make it online only. Apparently it's like to combat cheating, supposedly, and stuff like that. But yeah, that is the negative ramification of that. So the good news is most PlayStation games are not like that. You know, for example, if you have a game like Demon Souls, you know, or Returnal, they're not always online, you know, as far as I'm aware. Like, those are games that if you had the disc, you pop it in, you could still play it. But GT7 is as an exception there. Creeping Stage 514, you're saying haven't tuned into the podcast for a while, but what the F happened to I don't want the podcast to go over 2 hours. I don't know what happened, dude. Did I ever say that? I probably did say that at some point, and I don't know what happened, bro. I don't know what happened. But I'm not putting a time limit on my podcast anymore. I'm not going to say that my podcasts are going to be 4 hours or more. I'm not going to say they're going to be 2 hours. I'm not going to say they're going to be 3 hours. I'm just going to say it's going to be as long as it's going to be. You know, I think sometimes I do tend to, as I'm sure many of you noticed, sometimes I tend to kind of veer off in certain directions, and I'll just keep going and going and going. And before I know it, it's like I'm looking at the timer and it's like, wow, we've approached the 3 hour, 45 minute mark. And I feel so tired all of a sudden. I'm like, wow, I just, you know, what happened to Players No Limits? Yeah, no limits, man. Thank you for that, Press Alpha. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, thank you guys so much again for the super chats. Very generous today. I really appreciate that. Hector, you're saying, if you could wish for one game to be shown at PlayStation's next big event, a 10 to 15 minute gameplay demo, what would it be? Ragnarok or Wolverine? Well, bro, I'm going to be honest. That's an easy one. Wolverine, because that's brand new. Like, I have no idea what to expect from a Wolverine game and gameplay. So I would absolutely choose Wolverine. I don't think we're seeing Wolverine this year, though. I think the soonest we'll see Wolverine is next year. And that's so exciting to me. Like, guys, I'm gonna be so excited for that game. I was Wolverine 2 times in my life for Halloween. Not once, twice. When I was like really young, when I was like I must have been like, I think 7 or 8 years old. I had like the classic Wolverine costume, you know, the yellow costume, the yellow and blue costume. But when I was older, I think I must have been like 15 years old. I went with the X-Men Origins Wolverine look, you know, the tank top, had my way. I was total like cosplay mode. That's how much of a Wolverine fan I even had a cigar. I didn't smoke. I don't smoke, but I had a cigar. That's how committed I was to that. So to say I'm a big Wolverine fan is not doing it justice. So yeah, I can't, dude. I can't wait. I try not to think about the Wolverine game too much, only because I know it's so far away. You know, I don't want to. And I'm also really curious who they're going to cast in the MCU as Wolverine. Because, dude, Hugh Jackman, I think we can all agree, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine, bro. Like, I don't know how you're going to do better than that. I don't think you're going to do better than that. And I think it's going to be really difficult to even match Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So he's a big reason why I'm such a Wolverine fan too. So I'm very excited, man. You're saying you smoke cigars, MBG already told us. That's true. I smoke on rare occasion, but I decided to stop. I just don't feel good about it, you know? I just meant like at that time I was very young and not, you know, I wasn't doing stuff like that then. But yeah, I just trying to be healthy, you know? As healthy as I can anyway. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the game could create complications for future games. Yeah, they're not gonna have Hugh Jackman as part of the PlayStation Wolverine game. Definitely not. That'd be great. I wouldn't be against that, but it would create complications. And I do wonder, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I want to mention this because I don't think anybody's talked about this. Maybe some people have, but I haven't noticed it. It really seems to me that Sony and Marvel are trying to line up this Wolverine game with the eventual reveal of Wolverine in the MCU, because, you know, we're getting closer to seeing Wolverine revealed in the MCU. I'm not going to say anything other than, if you've been paying attention to the MCU, and this is not a spoiler, because it's already well out there everywhere, they have been teasing the, you know, Wolverine eventually coming, and I think they've actually talked about it. And I don't know if they've casted Wolverine yet or who's going to play Wolverine, but they've made it clear he's coming at some point. And you know, I follow some of these Marvel channels and they talk about like the timelines, and it seems to me that they really are maybe coinciding. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be connected. I'm not saying the Wolverine we're going to see in the Wolverine Insomniac game, I'm not saying that's going to be the same Wolverine as the one in the MCU. Not like that. I just mean, I think they want to try to drop the Wolverine game or be showing it off and have it close to releasing around the same time that they're introducing Wolverine into the MCU. So that's pretty cool if they're going for that, because it lines up. I don't know who they should get as Wolverine, honestly. I just hope that whoever they get does them justice. Josh Z, a member for 29 months. Thank you, man. Play as No Limits Plus. You're saying, I was not going to get The Last of Us 1 remake until I saw how detailed the visual upgrade is. It's not noticeable until you see the side-by-side comparisons, but there's so much more realism. I saw the TV show sneak peek too, and I'm hyped. Yeah, I want to talk about that actually as well. But dude, I don't know how many of you guys saw the launch trailer for The Last of Us Part 1, but my God, that was an insane trailer. I played that game a few times now, and even I can still, even that trailer, it's like, whoa, that whoever cut that trailer, it's a very, very good trailer. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out. Very intense. And I'm going to be honest, it did do a good job in getting me a little bit more excited to play it, because there's been so much negativity surrounding it. And yes, the $70 is a very hard pill to swallow, but it did, that trailer did, like, once again remind me, like, God damn, it is a masterpiece of a game. It really is. And putting aside the business practices, it is nice to see the game in such a good light within that trailer. So I thought that was a cool trailer. And if they were ever going to put out a trailer to try to convince people, that I think that was the one. Swizz242, you're saying your thoughts on Japan giving up on the PS5. I guess I could say it's not all that surprising, only because, I mean, let's be honest right now, ever since Jim Ryan took over the PlayStation as PlayStation CEO, I'm not saying that Sony has given up with Japan entirely. Obviously, they're a Japanese company, but you could just tell like it's not their main focus. And I feel like now when you look at the price increase in Japan, that's where it was like, they were hit particularly hard because of the, as we discussed, because of the currency exchange and rates and whatnot. I did see an article pop up, and maybe I'll cover it in an upcoming video, where like Final Fantasy fans in Japan are like begging for Square Enix and Sony to release Final Fantasy. Which game was it? I might have I don't know if I have it up here. One of the Final Fantasy. I think it's Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, because if I'm not mistaken, Final Fantasy 16 is already confirmed for PC. But I think that they were like basically begging for that game to come to PC, because they don't want to buy PS5s now because of the price increase. And it's like, I mean, I get it. Again, like I understand if you already were probably having to save up money to buy one. Now you have to save up longer, or you're just not happy about it. If you have a gaming PC already, I could see but I don't know, man. Regardless of the price increase, I will say this, and I'm not going back to that topic, but I just do want to say this. I like, I'm never going to be against Sony supporting their hardware. I'm just not. I'm not. I'm not like that. I'm not necessarily against more people being able to play a game, but I'm also not going to be against Sony wanting exclusives. I'm not going to be against Sony wanting to support their console and sell their console and give people, in my opinion, very good reasons to want to buy this console over a gaming PC or the competition. Chris says, I had a cigar and I don't even smoke. Punished MBG. Yeah, good one. I like that. I do got to make sure I stay hydrated, though. Been drinking a lot of coffee. Hydration break, guys. Got to make sure I do it. Okay. Will you get a Wolverine poster? Actually, I'm glad you asked. That. I actually was looking into that, and I'm like not sure what to do quite yet, because we're going to see more of the game at some point. All we have from the Wolverine game right now is the 1-minute CG trailer where he's in the bar. And I found this cool poster. I would have to be custom made, and I would frame it. It's pretty expensive too, actually, so I'd probably have to wait a little bit. But it was the shot from the trailer of Wolverine sitting at the bar with his back facing the camera. And I thought, man, that would look really cool. This wouldn't be a display. This would just be like a framed poster. That would be really cool. But I was also considering maybe waiting until they show more of the game, or something like that. Because, at some point, like, they're going to make a bunch of stuff. They're, displays and whatnot. So we'll see. When is Wolverine coming out? Probably 2024, the absolute earliest. But yeah, just to get back to what I was saying, I'm not against Sony. I'm not against exclusives. Again, this is kind of like alluding to the conversation we had earlier. I know that, Phil Spencer and Xbox, they, again, like I still stand by what I said to a degree, because I just don't understand how Phil Spencer can talk. Like, I do understand. I understand why Phil Spencer is allowed to say. Phil Spencer is allowed to come out and say that I would like to see less and less exclusives, and I think it's good for the industry, and I think it's good when, games are available on more platforms. He's allowed to say that because technically, and this is to me, this is just the funniest thing, dude. Technically, he's allowed to say that because he knows that Sony won't let Game Pass on PlayStation. Phil Spencer would absolutely put Game Pass on PlayStation, but Sony won't allow it. So he can technically say that. So he really can look like, the good guy. And I think what's dubious about that is, dude, come on, Phil's not stupid. Phil's not a stupid man. He's a very smart man. You got to be smart to be able to get that far up in Microsoft's chain of command, right? He knows for a fact why Sony cannot put Game Pass on PlayStation. And I just love that. I love that he's just twisting their arm, and Sony can't say anything. Sony can't say literally anything other than, we have our business model and that's it. But I do think that regardless of that notion of if every company could hold hands, if Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft could come together and be like, we're not changing our business models and we're just going to allow our games everywhere and nothing could change and everything could be great, and consoles still sold really well. Yeah, that sounds like a utopia, right? But do you really ever see that happening? Could it be that maybe because there's a reason why that can't exist? Or could it be that maybe in order for that reality to exist, something has to be sacrificed? And what exactly would be sacrificed? So I'm not against exclusives. I'm also not against the idea of Sony branching out a little bit and kind of walking this. I think it's just a matter of, as long as Sony is playing it smart, which I think they are, where it's like, do we put a game like God of War Ragnarok onto PC? Do we launch that into PlayStation Plus? No, we make that an exclusive to sell our PlayStation hardware units. And then maybe a couple years later, 2 or 3 years later, maybe even 4 years later, maybe then we'll release it on PC. Maybe then we'll put it on PlayStation Plus. I think that's a smart way to go about it. Just like I think it's a smart way, with the upcoming Last of Us multiplayer game. Just like I think it would be a smart move to say, let's make this free to play and let's put it on both console, PlayStation console, and PC. I think that's a smart play too, and I just think that both things can exist and they can basically play their roles. It's pretty obvious that the days of everything that PlayStation does being exclusive to just the PlayStation ecosystem, those days are gone. And I think that's okay, but those days are gone for a reason. It's because, things are expanding. Sony is truly looking beyond just AAA single player games. They're doing AAA single player games and they're looking for other things as well that they can do. And, I would be, I've seen some people say that they think it's going to be announced that PSVR 2 will be usable and playable on PC. I do not expect this. This would be quite a surprise if they did that. I think it's still going to be tethered to the PlayStation 5 console. And that will be a good, that will tell you how Sony still is very much committed to, doing things in their own ecosystem and still caring about, still caring about their own ecosystem and keeping things somewhat closed. We'll see though. They could decide to make it playable on PC, which would be an interesting move for sure. And that would be very surprising. And the implications of that, I think, would run a little bit deeper. By the way, guys, hit that like button for me. I think we're getting close to 400 likes. I really appreciate it. If you could help me get there. But I totally got off topic here. So let's get back to the PlayStation Showcase so I can put a bow on this topic and we can move to the next one. I just wanted to say, when it comes to the PlayStation Showcase, there are a couple of guarantees. I see somebody asking PSVR 2 price prediction. I think it's going to be $500. I think PSVR 2, I don't see how Sony could increase the price of their console and, talk about inflation and all that, and then come out and somehow announce a $400 headset. I would love that. Have I ever tried VR? No, I've never experienced VR. I don't know if that's surprising or not, but I'm excited. That's why I'm so excited for VR 2. So he says, I take it the PS showcase has been confirmed. No, not officially, but I think all of us are feeling very confident. I think all of us are feeling very confident that it's going to happen. But if you want my prediction, I think it's going to be $500. I'm also highballing it here because I don't want to be surprised. I don't want to expect 400 and then see them come out with 500. So I would just recommend that to people. Just assume it's going to be 500. Because if it's not, that would be great. That would be, it feel like a win at that point. But I think Sony's confident in VR2. I think they're confident in it, and I think they're confident in PS5 owners wanting to buy a PSVR 2 headset. And I think because of that, they're going to feel confident with a $500 price point. I see somebody saying $600. I don't think now that would be a bizarre situation. A VR headset that's more expensive than the console it's tethered to. That would be truly bizarre. But I think that there are a couple of things that are absolutely guaranteed to be at the PlayStation Showcase when it happens. Number one, PlayStation VR 2 and the launch lineup for PlayStation VR 2. Number two, Spider-Man 2. I absolutely anticipate that Spider-Man 2 will be part of the PlayStation Showcase. And number three, Helldivers 2, already leaked, so I fully anticipate that announcement will be there. The reason why I'm not putting God of War here, I mean, I could see us getting a trailer. Man, it's like pouring outside. I could see us getting a trailer for God of War Ragnarok, but I'm also thinking Sony might hold back on God of War Ragnarok for their showcase in favor of a stated play. I do also think, though, if Sony had a showcase and didn't show literally anything of God of War, considering how close we are to launch, I think people would be annoyed. So I do expect a small trailer for God of War Ragnarok, but I do still think they're going to hold it back mostly for a state of play. That's what I think. I could be wrong about that, but I do not expect to see Wolverine there. There could be an acquisition announced there, but I'm not anticipating that either. If I'm not mistaken, Neil Druckmann confirmed we're not going to see the Last of Us multiplayer game. I think he said the next time we're going to hear about it is next year, which is unfortunate because I've really been dying to see that game. And so, yeah, outside of that, it's anybody's guess what else we might see there. I will tell you this too, or not tell you, I want to ask you guys, do you think Sony's showcase is going to be live, or do you think it's going to be pre-recorded? Surely it's going to be pre-recorded, right? I feel like that's the direction Sony's in now. Like, I don't think Sony's going to do live shows at all. I don't think they have any reason to. I think it's going to be pre-recorded. So the reason why I'm saying this is because, well, even if it wasn't pre-recorded, the snitch, once again, over on Twitter, the snitch once again proves that he can see trailers that are uploaded to YouTube's backend somehow, or something like he's able to see these things when they're put up close to events. So he doesn't seem to be spoiling everything, but I have no doubt that if a showcase is announced, assuming it's pre-recorded, I think we could expect to see maybe a couple of things leaked out by the snitch. Maybe, in some cryptic way. That's how he likes to do it. So I'm going to be looking at that. I'm going to be paying attention to that. And I'm going to hope that if there's something really, really good, he doesn't leak it. But I do anticipate that's going to happen. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for my showcase topic. Look, after today, we have 3 more days of August, and the first day of September starts this upcoming Thursday. So I guess as far as I'm concerned, the countdown has already begun, guys. Like, if this event is happening on the 8th, then going forward at any moment, at any moment we could we could see something leak out or something come out. I see somebody asking if I'm going to record my first VR reaction. Well, they did announce with PSVR 2, assuming that I'm able to get my hands on one at launch, they did announce that you will be able to stream from it, from your PS5. So, I have the camera and I can make that happen. So I would love to do that. Excuse me. I would love to do that as long as I'm able to. All right, so the next topic I want to talk about is this Hogwarts Legacy situation, because this is causing more controversy than I would have anticipated. And I'm just MBG punching the TV. You know what? Oh man, yeah, I got to be careful about that. I'm gonna have to make sure I make enough space. But let's talk about this Hogwarts Legacy situation. So what's weird to me about this is, well, let me give you the context. So Hogwarts Legacy is coming out early next year, and it was revealed that there is a PlayStation exclusive quest. So if you pick up Hogwarts Legacy, I think it's a $70 title, if I'm not mistaken, for 60 or 70 bucks. If you buy it on PlayStation, you get one extra quest that is exclusive to PlayStation. And it was also revealed through the Hogwarts Legacy Twitter account, that they do have I think more PlayStation exclusivity to some degree. They said they're going to talk about it soon. Again, maybe that's hinting at a showcase. I could see Hogwarts being there. And the reaction that I've seen from some people is just like, whoa. The amount of people I basically saw being like, I'm not buying this game now. Screw you guys. Any hype I just had died. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, we get it. Sony is the bad guy. They're the worst. And you now absolutely hate Hogwarts Legacy. You absolutely despise WB. We get it. I think people are overreacting just a little bit here. It's kind of crazy. Like, I literally couldn't believe that people were getting this insane over one quest. But here's the thing. There's a specific thing I want to point out with this. All right. This number one. I do sympathize and understand when somebody says, so wait, I'm going to pay the same price for this game on Xbox or PC or Switch, because somehow this game is releasing on Switch, and I'm going to get less content. Yes, technically, you are getting less content. Now, it's a single quest line, okay? Like, I don't think we need to act, if we were to think of a percentage here, I'm going to assume that's probably like less than 4%, less than 3% of the entire game. Probably less than 2%, realistically. It seems like a pretty massive game. So, like, when it comes to the principle, I understand. Like, I understand why people would be like, wow, that's annoying, and it seems unnecessary. I get that. But there's a couple things we have to point out here. The first thing I want to point out is we do not know what this quest is. I saw somebody say something about this, and I actually agreed with them, because I'm like, that would make the most sense. They were like, if this is like, because this is a PlayStation exclusive quest, if this is something that is like, I don't know, maybe you go on this quest line and there's like a big Easter egg for like a big PlayStation exclusive, like God of War or Horizon, or just like a callback to a game or something. And it feels like it was PlayStation-ified, I guess, if that makes sense. And it doesn't come off like it was just a random quest that Sony paid to cut out to make just for them. That I agree with what that person said. Like, that would be pretty cool, because that would make it feel like, oh, this is like, Sony didn't just pay for a exclusive quest. They actually paid for something that's a little bit like special to PlayStation players. I'm not necessarily saying it would make it perfectly okay with everybody, but it would add a little bit more to it and not, again, just make it feel kind of gratuitous where it's like you just literally paid to cut that sliver out. Something else I have to say here, though, and I have to say this because this to me was bizarre. Last week, I know you guys were here, okay? I know you guys were here. Last week, we covered the topic of Sony reportedly paying to block games from entering Game Pass. And it was discovered that through court documents that Sony it was with games that Sony had marketing rights to, such as Resident Evil Village, okay? So the idea was Sony paid for the marketing rights for Resident Evil Village. Part of that, there was like a clause or part of the contractual agreement was Capcom had to agree because of the money that Sony was going to pay them to market the game. Capcom had to agree that they couldn't release it onto Game Pass, the competitor's service. And people were telling me, and I saw a lot of this. Like, I was trying to ask people to explain to me what's the difference between that and paying to make things exclusive. Because I said, like, this just kind of seems like the same thing, right? Like, how is this different from paying for exclusivity or, making certain content, paying to make certain content exclusive? And people were explaining to me that it's different because what Sony was doing by making it so that certain games couldn't go into Game Pass, that in no way benefits the PlayStation player, the PlayStation owner. And that made sense to me. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, you're right. That doesn't benefit me at all. It doesn't help me or make me feel any better as a PlayStation player knowing that this game will never launch into the service or can't launch into it. It doesn't affect me at all. It just helps Sony's, I guess, bottom line. So this puts me in a position now where, as a PlayStation player, am I still supposed to be mad at Sony where I'm assuming they didn't pay to block this game from Game Pass, but instead they paid for an exclusive quest. So me as a PlayStation player, if I choose to buy this game on PlayStation, I feel like I'm getting something a little extra. And it feels like whatever money Sony paid Warner Brothers here, it's benefiting me as a PlayStation fan. And is it wrong? Is it still wrong of me? Is that still wrong? This is what I'm trying to figure this out because it feels like people are always trying to find a way to explain why anything Sony's doing with exclusivity is bad. That Sony paying any money for any type of exclusivity is bad. Now, again, I'm not saying that I don't understand from a wider viewpoint why this is a little bit you could argue that this seems a little petty. I agree. It's a little petty. I don't know that we need a single quest. It does seem petty to me, but at the same time, if you're Sony, and this is where it's this is where I can sympathize a little bit more with the business side of things. It's like, if you can pay to have a quest exclusive to your platform, and you can turn to your player base and say, if you buy the game here, you get an exclusive quest. This is why I get so annoyed, because it's like, why the fuck are people ignoring the fact that they're bitching out Sony for doing this? They're screaming at Sony for doing this. They're like, Sony, you're pathetic. You're sad. You're taking shit away. Guys, why is nobody acknowledging that Microsoft literally bought a fucking publisher and made them exclusive? But you're gonna bitch about a fucking single quest? Jesus Christ, dude. It's crazy. I just can't understand. So Sony's still the bad guy. Dude, somebody said, I saw somebody say, they were like, dude, Microsoft has to compete. And this is how they compete. They compete by buying publishers and by buying games and making them exclusive. And you know what else they said? They told me Sony started this. They said Sony started this by buying exclusives, by making certain games exclusive, by partnering and making exclusives, by doing all these little Call of Duty, Hogwarts, Destiny, you name it, exclusivity things. And I'm like, okay, fine. You guys, everyone wants to tell me that what Microsoft is doing is fair game because they're playing Sony's game. So why are people still bitching that Sony's still playing the same game? You see what I'm saying? So if you're somebody who comes out and says, I hate all exclusives, and I think everything that's exclusive should not exist and just go away, and everybody should be able to play everything, fine. I think that's a valid point. That's like, I understand that. That's not reasonable because that's never going to happen. You're living in fantasy land, but fine. If that's your stance on it, where you hate exclusivity of any kind and you are against it, that's fine. But what's so bizarre to me is I'm not saying you can't be upset that you're going to have one less quest if you choose to buy the Xbox version. I'm not saying you can't express your frustration or shouldn't to Warner Brothers for cutting this deal with Sony. What I'm saying is you can't do that and then cheer on Microsoft for doing things that are significantly beyond that. All right? If you are the person that says to me and to many other people that, hey man, look, this is competition and this is how Microsoft plays the game. Okay. I remember I had previous podcasts where I said, you know what? You're right. Tip of the hat to Microsoft. They're playing the game. They're doing it in a way that nobody anticipated. They're doing it on a much bigger scale and scope. But this notion that suddenly this means Sony has to stop playing the game, that's not how this works, man. You know, and so all I can say is this. I sympathize with those who want to buy Hogwarts Legacy on PC, on Xbox, on Nintendo, who maybe feel bad and annoyed that they're not getting this quest. But at the same time, again, as somebody who prefers PlayStation, I do feel like, well, I do feel like Sony's giving me a little something here, you know? Like, I can't help but feel like, well, all right, I mean, Sony want to give me an exclusive quest. I ain't going to say no to that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say no to it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, how dare you, Sony? How dare you try to give me as your customer something a little extra? Now, I did see somebody else say, and this was another thing I saw. They were like, well, maybe Sony could have just taken that money that they paid for this exclusive quest, and instead they could have put it into something else. But I'm like, well, come on, let's be real here for a second. Like, how much money do we really think Sony paid for a single quest here? Like, people are basically insinuating that money that went to that exclusive quest could have went to a brand new game. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. I'm not saying Sony didn't pay money for this, but how much exactly do you think they paid the same amount that it would take for a game to be made, you know, or to make a whole nother game exclusive? I don't think so. So, you know, I think if anything, it just reveals, you know, I'm not trying to like argue with people or anything with this. I just think that this whole situation reveals, and including Microsoft in this, that like this is just the name of the game, man. Exclusivity is the name of the game. It is. Like, there is a reason why Microsoft is not releasing Starfield on PlayStation, and there's a reason why Sony's out here being like, we need this exclusive quest because it's going to help us sell more copies or maybe convince people to choose PlayStation. You know? Again, it's a little bit petty, but, you know, I just think people need to stop getting so upset over these things because it's like they're not going to stop. Also, I want to say this last thing as well. I don't mean to say that people shouldn't get upset. I just mean I don't think they should get that upset about it. Like, again, I think it's okay to air your grievances and whatnot. But I also just want to point out, hasn't anybody taken a second to think, like, why the hell is Sony still doing this? Like why is Sony out here paying for an exclusive quest? I'll tell you why. Because it works, dude. It works. You think Sony would be wasting this money if it didn't do anything for them? There's actually like I've seen some people get mad at Warner Brothers for waiting so long to announce this, or seemingly like they didn't really make it that clear. And I agree, for some reason they didn't really make it that clear that there was a PlayStation exclusive Quest. Again, maybe Sony's saving this for the showcase. But I did see some people saying like they're annoyed because they already pre-ordered the game digitally on the Xbox platform. And they were like, if I had known that there's going to be an exclusive Quest, I would have pre-ordered it for PlayStation, you know? And that's where I'm like, yeah, that's a little weird. Like I think is a totally valid complaint. Like, if you're going to have exclusive content, please make it clear to people so they know. Like, wouldn't that be in Sony's best interest as well? But you're saying MBG, it helps PlayStation profit, not the customers. They would have the Quest anyway. Well, again, that's where it's like we have to see what the Quest is. I feel like it would really benefit Sony if you're going to pay extra money for that, make a request. Be like, can you make this something that's like a nod to PlayStation, like a nod to a certain character or game, or like a quest that's like themed very clearly around like a PlayStation game or character? That would be very cool. Like, that would feel like it's tailor-made. I do agree that it would be a little bit underwhelming, and it comes off as more petty if it's just a sliver of the game that would have already been there, and then you like set it aside, you know? I do think that if Sony is going to continue to do this, which they are, it would be nice to see that special treatment given and make it seem like it was something that was tailor-made, not something that just was, you know. But again, it's like, you know, it's something that has worked for Sony for a long time. They did it all throughout the PS4 generation. And I just want to point this out too, real quick. I just want to point this out too. If you're like an Xbox fan or a Nintendo fan or on PC, whatever, and you're annoyed about this, like, you have to understand, like, dude, these platform holders can also do this if they want. Like, Xbox could have tried to do this. Nintendo could have, you know, and I'm just saying, you know, it's there for the taking. And that's all. All right, let me see. Are you 46 and 2 rate? Member for 13 months. Thank you, man. You're saying it's a good business tactic to make a special quest, but also the devs make more money when Sony paid to not have it on Game Pass. If you want a game buy. If you want the game buy. Also, Microsoft pays for chip priority. Both are great business tactics. Yeah, that's something else, dude, that I was talking about, where it's like, I remember when the reports of Microsoft paying for chip priority came out, and like, you know, I didn't see people complaining at Microsoft for that. You know, I didn't see people getting angry at them. I just saw people being like, oh, that's a smart move by them. It's like, this is what I mean, dude. It's like when goodwill turns into, you know, and we've seen it happen with PlayStation too. I'm not saying it's just Microsoft. It happens with PlayStation as well. But we have to like be careful where it's like there's a difference between goodwill and just common sense, you know, and just being able to see things for what they actually are. You know, I think like feeling good about a brand and feeling like you support and you're behind a brand and you're loyal to a brand to a degree for whatever reason, I think that's fine, but you can't be blinded by it. And I think sometimes that can happen. Hey, MBG, are you worried about PlayStation's decisions as of late? Would you become an Xbox guy again anytime soon? Well, that's the thing is like, I am a little bit worried about PlayStation's decisions, mainly because I don't want to see greed take over so egregiously, I guess. Like I'm not ever going to be the person that's like, wait, what? So Sony wants my money? As much money as I'm willing to give? Like, you know what I mean? I'm never going to be that person. Like, of course they want my money. Of course, if they can get more money out of me, they'll try to. I just don't want it to be done in a blatantly, obviously like disrespectful, not necessarily disrespectful, but in a way that's just like, again, when we look at how GT7 launched, I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but again, like with them bringing out so many live service games in the next 5 years. It's stuff like that where it's like, Sony, look, I know you want that microtransaction money. I get that. I understand you need to grow that part of your business, but for the love of God, like, please don't screw it up like that. Just don't make it seem so egregious. Don't make it so obvious that you're money hungry for these microtransactions and stuff like that. And you're so eager to be totally profitable. There's a better way to do it. And that's, if you want to talk about what I'm worried about, I'm not worried about Sony's ability to make great games. I'm not worried about PlayStation Studios and the talent there. I'm not worried about any of that. The only thing I'm worried about is the corporate greed side of things beginning to overshadow that or get in the way of that, and that's what's concerning. That's why I remember I was I wasn't like worried, but I was surprised. I was like, man, talk about like bad timing when Sony, we can stick with GT7. The game, like, that launch was plagued by negative press. The GT7 launch was plagued by negative press, and it was completely unnecessary and needless. Like, that was a time when people should have been happy, and it was a proper launch of the next mainline GT game. And instead, people couldn't help but notice and rightfully call out, like, what are they trying to do here with the microtransactions? And I know that people were like, oh, you're over exaggerating, but make no mistake, man. Like, if people didn't call that out and make it known that, like, yeah, we want to be excited for your game, GT7. We want to be hyped for it, but we can't be because we have to, point out how you're clearly trying to extract way more money out of us with the microtransaction system this time than you were previously. And that's the thing, is they did correct that. They had to, because that was the only way to negate the negative press. And that's what worries me. I get worried that with the new corporate leadership, their focus is on making everything as profitable and as tight as it can be. Like, making sure there's no stone left unturned. And I feel like that's where I just don't want to see it get out of hand. I don't want to see it get in the way. That's all. I don't want to see that get in the way of the things that PlayStation absolutely does right and that people should be focusing on. I feel like Sony has been their own worst enemy for a little bit now, honestly. Inspector Guru, a member for 4 months. Thank you, man. You're saying, what's up, MBG? Just wondering, have you still been hitting the gym? I kind of slacked up this month with traveling. I've been working out at home a lot. I've been taking a bit of a break from the gym, but doing pretty solid workouts at home. I think right now I'm focused not so much on bulking or anything like that. I'm focused on just trying to cut down, trim a little bit of body fat, and get a more toned, shredded type look. I'm still far from it, but that's what I'm working on now. KD, you're saying, OMG, MBG, the GT7 stuff was fake console war outrage, LOL. There's literally several methods of farming over a couple of million every hour in the game. Come on. Well, look, I don't deny that maybe I'm, maybe there, I'm not going to say that there isn't, that things aren't overblown. All right. I'm not going to say that that's not a thing, because if there's one thing I have noticed is if you could take a small, you can tell I'm reaching that point in my podcast where I'm having trouble conjuring up new words. Let me take a drink here and I'll try to say what it is I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the trick is with PlayStation is you have to try to determine, are people making a mountain out of a molehill, or is it justified? If I can recall with GT7, I mean, to be fair, it's been a little while, but I think the big thing that people noticed is how you could previously, if you wanted, just buy a car that was available for like $3 or $4 or $5 at most. But they decided to do away with that And they made it so that, well, now you have to buy currency packs, and you're no longer going to be able to just buy a single car for, a cheap price point. Your only options are to either grind. And again, like, based off of the research I did at that time, people were saying like this grind seems kind of ridiculous. Like people were saying they have to adjust things here. They have to adjust it so it's not overly grindy. But people were also saying that like this just feels like a massive step back. Where previously, if there was just one car in particular that you didn't want to have to grind your ass off for, you could just pay $2, $3, $4 for it. Now they want you to buy, you got to buy a minimum of like $10, $15, $20 credit packs or whatnot. And again, like, I at the time, I remember seeing people going back and forth, like people saying, no, this is too much. And I will admit, like, there are aspects to it that I probably don't fully understand because I'm not really a GT7 player. And I did see two types of people. Like I did see people that were genuinely upset, genuinely talking about how they're not enjoying the game, and I did see people that were like, well, it's really not that bad, man. You have to do this. And then I would then see those two people arguing below me. And I'm like, well, in general, Sony has to do something because even if it was overblown, and this is another thing with Sony that I think they have to do a better job of, even if it is overblown, Sony has to understand that we live in the day and age of the internet where, dude, if the snowball effect, it's real and it's here and it's more prevalent than ever before. Sony's got to do a better job getting out in front of it, because even if stuff is not true or it's overblown or it's exaggerated, it's Sony's job to ensure like don't let it get to that point or stop it and make things clear. And that's why I feel like they had to come out here with GT7 and they did make changes. And, Kazunori, he wrote a whole thing. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I feel like Sony should have been out in front of this. This is GT7. This is like their biggest game launch, one of their biggest. Katie, you're saying, come on, MBG, they sell $40 planes in Flight Sim, LMAO. Well, dude, I'm not, it's not like I'm supporting that either. I'm not supporting that shit either. Like if that's true, that's fucking insane. They're out of their damn minds, and that's where it's like, this is why I say like, we can't be in like a bubble with PlayStation, right? We can't just exist in a bubble where it's like, anything PlayStation does is good. Anything the competition's doing is bad. Like, I'm just going to say this. This is where I'll say this. Talk about being worried about PlayStation. I'm not worried about their single player games. I'm not worried about, again, most of the studios that are developing these games. I have no doubt whatsoever that when I buy these games and I play them, they're going to feel worth it. They're going to be quality. I'm not saying I'm going to like every single game that comes from PlayStation Studio. There might be a game from a studio or two that I'm just like, it's not really my thing. I'll pass on that. I'm interested in seeing how Sony handles these live service games because I'm going to be on the ground floor with them. Like when The Last of Us or even Helldivers 2. I'm not going to count Helldivers 2. I will count it, but I just mean like I'm not going to be paying as close attention because it's a partner game. The Last of Us Online game, assuming that's like one of the first like real true live service push games from Sony internally, I'm going to be paying very close attention to how they handle every aspect of that game. And I want to know, like, so what, like, it's going to be free to play. Are you taking the Fortnite route? Are we going to be looking at $20 skins? How would you guys feel about that? How would you feel if The Last of Us multiplayer was free to play, but their skins were $20? I'm curious I'm curious to see what you guys think before I give my opinion on that. I see somebody saying, people are fine with that, apparently. So sure. Well, to give my opinion on that, because I do think that's the route Sony's going. Just like I could be wrong. We still have to see, but I'm thinking that's the route Sony's going. As long as it's just cosmetic only, which it will. Like, come on, Sony can't be that stupid. You know, they have Bungie now. We know that for a game like The Last of Us Online, it's going to be cosmetics. It would be a disaster if it wasn't. If they want to charge $20 for like new skins, I'm totally fine with that. Like I'm totally like, because that has zero impact on me whatsoever, right? Unless maybe, you know, I'm playing The Last of Us and I'm chopping people's heads off and, you know, just crazy stuff going on. And there's like somebody dressed as a pink unicorn with a rainbow assault rifle. I mean, that might be a little like that's affecting me a little bit, but you know, like cosmetics, this is where I feel like this is, no loot boxes, nothing like if Sony goes in that direction, they're automatically screwed. They're done. Like you can put a fork in it, it's done before it even starts because loot boxes are not the future for pay. You know, I think that the thing, excuse me, I can't speak. The thing that Fortnite did is it showed people like, look, people are willing to pay $20 for skins. They just have to not have any impact on the gameplay whatsoever. Although I don't know if in Fortnite, I can't tell anymore. I don't play Fortnite. The skins don't have any impact, right? Because I see people doing like all different stuff in that game. And is that like, do you have to pay for that? Do you have to pay to use like, I've seen people like lightsabers and whatnot. I don't even know what's going on over there anymore. But I'm assuming that's stuff that you can get in the game. Like you don't have to pay for. It's just the skins. It's just the skins. Killer unicorns in The Last of Us would break immersion a tad bit. Yeah. Okay, they're pickups. Okay, all right, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the route Sony's going to go, man. And like I think as long as the game is free to play, you know where I think Sony could mess up? I'll tell you, I think this is where Sony could mess up. Because to me, it wouldn't affect me negatively, but I would feel like, wow, Sony, you really don't want this to succeed, do you? I think where Sony could mess up is with a game like The Last of Us Online. They're going to charge full price for it and still offer $10 to $20 cosmetics, skins, and microtransactions. And it's not the microtransactions that would be the problem, but it would be like, this isn't going to work. You know what I mean? Like games like Fortnite and GTA Online, technically still you need GTA to buy, but it's like about like $10. It's also like a separate download now on PlayStation. Like unless the game's going to be dirt cheap or free to play, you got to be careful, because if you think about what Sony's going for here, you're saying, no, I want to buy the game and own it. So yeah, I kind of feel that way too. It's interesting because I've noticed Fortnite does that. Fortnite is a free to play game to download, but they do offer like physical copies of the game, I think. Like I've seen physical boxes of Fortnite and they like update it occasionally with like new content. I don't know if that actually comes with a disc or not. I'm assuming it does, but I am with you there. I hope that whatever Sony does, I'm hoping that whatever they do, they do have a physical version of the game you can buy, even if it's free to play, because I'll pay for it, you know? It's just a physical box. There's no disc. Wow. That's so bizarre. If true, I'd still buy it. If that's what Sony did, I'd still buy it. I would still buy it because I want that box. It would be totally pointless, but there's no disc. Oh, I love it, dude. I should have known. You know what? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in that case, Sony, come on, charge like $10. Make a physical disc for your free-to-play game. Is there a free-to-play game? Is there a disc version of any free-to-play game? I don't think that exists, does it? I don't think so. I can't think of anything. Anthem. Destiny 2. Oh, okay. Yeah, but Destiny 2 went free to play after the fact. But can we count that though? Like, can we count games that went free to play after the fact? I don't know. Like, I'm talking like a day one free to play game, but you can buy disc version. I guess it kind of defeats the notion of free to play in a way. Well, anyway, not to get too far off track here, because I feel like I definitely went a few different directions. I will say that. All right, see somebody, Roberto, you're saying, I think I'm thinking of buying display. How do you like them? I do like them. I will say though, my one other display I took off because it kept falling, but that's because like there's like a layer that goes under it and it came off. But I do like them. Just make sure you just make sure you don't keep moving them around a whole lot because it does lose the stickiness. Like they give you something that's like a one-time use thing. But yeah, in general, I don't know that I'm like super concerned about Sony or anything like that. I think when we see how they handle their live service games, we're going to have a much better idea of what version of Sony we're really dealing with. Because the truth is, this is going to be a new version of Sony. We've never seen Sony try live service games, especially not aggressively. So whatever version of Sony we get here is going to be a new version. And my hope, like I've always said, it's pretty simple. I want to see Sony continue to prioritize and evenly invest into single player games as well as new IP. Always make that a priority. Always make that a core pillar of the PlayStation brand and, of the foundation. But I also want to see them pursue these live service games for the sake of diversity and trying some different things, experimenting. But I want to make sure that they don't take it too far or make too many mistakes along the way. Because we could end up getting great games out of them. That's the thing. I think that for people who are against Sony going in the live service direction, they do sometimes, I think, fail to see that we could get great experiences out of this. New experiences, truly stuff that we haven't really gotten from PlayStation. And that sounds exciting. That sounds enticing to me, but it has to be done right. Right? Zanarkhan Blitzer, thank you, man. You're saying the Hogwarts Legacy PS exclusive quest sounds good to me for a PlayStation player. Got my physical copy pre-ordered. Reminds me that Soul Calibur, what is that? 5? No, that's 6. 4? Yeah, I think that's 4. Had exclusive console characters, Darth Vader only on PS3 and Yoda only on Xbox 360. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, that was a long time ago, man. I feel like there was a big deal made about that in the past. But yeah, and that's the thing, dude, is like, I don't know that. I mean, look, I'm just saying, I don't think you're going to see PlayStation players, or at least too many. Hold on, MBG, there is a physical version that existed with a disc for Fortnite, but it was the first ever physical they released. Look at the prices on eBay if you dare. LOL, they're stupidly expensive. Really? I forgot. Was Fortnite always free to play? That I don't remember. But I will tell you, man, Zanarkhan Blitzer, I will tell you, dude, I don't think there are that many PlayStation fans who are planning to buy I don't think they're planning to buy Hogwarts Legacy and also thinking to themselves, man, I really wish I didn't get this exclusive quest. I think like the most you'll see is like I could see a PlayStation fan being like, yeah, I could see why people think this is stupid and it is pretty petty. Well, whatever. That's the thing, man, is I'm not going to ever bitch at Sony, as it being my preferred platform. I'm never going to bitch at Sony for trying to do things and paying money that seemingly make me feel like they're adding value to whatever it is, I'm looking forward to. I'm not saying it's like that big of a difference maker either. Like, realistically speaking, if I was an Xbox dude, like, and that was my main platform and I just didn't play on PlayStation, I would be like, if I was really excited for Hogwarts Legacy, I'd be a little bit annoyed, but I wouldn't really care that much. You know what I mean? I'd be like I wouldn't be crying over one quest. Truthfully, I'm just being totally honest. It's just like if for Xbox, okay, let's look at a game like the Callisto Protocol. I don't think anybody has the market. I don't know if Sony has the marketing rights for that, but that's a game I'm really looking forward to. If they were like, we're going to have like an exclusive side quest to the, for the Callisto Protocol on Xbox, I'd be like, that's annoying. But it's not like I'm going to be like, oh my God, like I'm not buying this game. I'm not supporting this game. I'd be like, well, damn, Microsoft throwing around some money to, try to get people to buy these games on their platform. It's like, I would just be like, whatever, that sucks. I'm still going to buy the game on PlayStation and enjoy it, So I don't know. But you know what the thing is, again, I guess there are some people where they look at that and they're like, yeah, I'm going to buy it on PlayStation now. All right, we're going to move on to the next topic though, guys, which is talking about the DualSense Edge controller. My hat is like pressing my glasses into my head. It hurts. Yeah, we're going to move on and talk about the DualSense Edge controller. So before I move on to that topic, please do me a big favor and hit that like button. I think we could definitely get to 500 likes if everybody contributes. But the DualSense Edge, what do you guys think of this controller? Are you excited for it? Are you planning on buying it? Are you waiting? Do you need to know the price point? See somebody say overpriced. Well, we don't know how much it is yet. It could be overpriced. I see somebody saying what took Sony so long for this. So I see somebody mentioning 4 back buttons, and that's one thing I didn't really notice at first, but I did see people saying that they feel like Sony is they're not hitting, they're not checking all the boxes here because it only has 2 back buttons, not 4. Now, I don't know that I care too much about the back buttons. A long time ago when I used the first Elite controller, I didn't care too much about the back buttons. Something else I saw people a little bit upset about, and I actually really agree with this, is they were upset that, they aren't including the rubberized grips for the controller. And to me, that feels like that should have been there. That should be there for the DualSense Edge, because that was one of the cooler things about the Elite. Saying MBG, your channel is buffering a lot. Let me check. I mean, everything seems okay on my end. Everything's in the green. Hopefully it's just it might be on your end, man. I don't know. It could be your connection. Everything's good over here. But yeah, that's another thing too. I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining too much about it, but people are really wondering about the battery life. And for me, this is something I am curious about as well. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never had any issues. I've never had any issues with the battery life on the DualSense. And you know why? It's because from day one, I had the wireless, or not wireless, the DualSense charging station. And I bought 2 DualSenses. I bought quite a few DualSenses, but I always have one charging or fully charged on the stand. And the worst thing that's ever happened is, I get a notification my battery's low. I just pick the other one up, place the other one down. And I guess I would just highly recommend to everybody, if you are planning on buying a PS5 or if you have one, like invest in the charging station and a second DualSense. It'll be totally worth it in the long run. You never have to worry about battery life. But I do understand as well where it's like the battery life can feel a little bit short sometimes if you're playing a game that's taking full advantage of the all the DualSense features. It can drain the battery pretty rapidly. And I think people were hoping that with the DualSense Edge, one of the features was going to be a bigger battery. Now, obviously, Sony is going to try to price this thing competitively. And if they were to increase the size of the battery, you also have to consider weight as well. You do have to consider that the price would probably go up. Now, the one thing that Sony is allowing with their controller, which is weird. It's not weird to me, but it's like I didn't expect it because it just didn't like. I don't know how appealing it is to people, but the fact that you can completely change the stick modules, like entirely. That's really interesting to me. Like, I don't recall ever seeing a controller that let you do that. Of course, you will have to buy them separately. And, I guess that's a nice feature to have, right? Like, it'll make it so that you don't have to buy a whole new controller if there is any stick drift with it, because it's going to be, an expensive controller. Maybe you assume that the modules will be relatively cheap. You're saying it sounds like they're going to break. But yeah, to be fair, though, I don't know that there is a controller out right now that doesn't eventually suffer from stick drift. If there is, I'm not aware of it. So I think this is maybe the best solution right now for them. So yeah, I have seen some people that are definitely excited about that. I mean, I'm just happy to see Sony doing this, because I feel like this is something they probably should have done a while ago. When Xbox had the Elite controller, they're on to their Series 2 now. I really thought that was something Sony was going to want to do, and I'm really happy to see it. I'm interested to see the price point, because if I'm not mistaken, the Elite Series 2 is a $180 controller. And so I could see Sony going up to, I don't think it would be a good look if Sony went up to 200. I think at the very minimum, I think it needs to be 180. I think the controller needs to be 180 and match, if they could get a little bit cheaper, that'd be great, but I don't see that happening either. But in general, I also want to say this. I was very surprised. $250, that'd be crazy. Sony would be out of their minds. If Sony charges $250 for this controller, they're out of their minds. Devil Shooter, you're saying there is an electromagnetic tech out there that 100% gets rid of stick drift. Type "say goodbye to stick drift" on YouTube. Interesting. I didn't know that. How expensive is it, though? I wonder if it would be, that sounds like it would be pretty expensive. Yeah, if Sony goes $250 on this DualSense Edge controller, I think people would buy it, but man, I think a lot of people would be outraged with that price. That would be crazy to me. I wouldn't pay that much. I'm just being honest. Like, if Sony charges $250 for a controller, I'm good. I'd rather literally buy another DualSense. If it's at $200, that would still feel a little, you're pushing it, but okay. But I think 180 is where it's got to be. If they want, maybe make it 170, try to undercut the Elite series a little bit. But yeah, I did also want to say that I was very surprised to see this announced. At Gamescom, because when we were talking about Gamescom, I was making it clear to everybody that, guys, Sony said they're not going to be here. And look, when Sony says they're not going to be an event, I'm assuming they're literally not going to be there. Not that they're literally going to be there. I don't think anybody could have predicted that. And I thought that was cool, though, because it was a nice surprise. The fact that I thought that Sony wasn't going to be there to any capacity, and then they show off their new controller. That's pretty cool. So I did see some people speculating that it's going to launch this holiday closer to God of War. I could see that. I hope it does. But that's pretty much all I had to say about it, guys. I don't have too much else to say. I just wanted to make sure to mention it here because it was one of the bigger announcements of the week. And so, yeah, just if you're here now in the chat, let me know if it's a controller you plan on buying. And if you're somebody who is watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments if it's a controller you're interested in. So the final topic I have for you today is it's a brief one, but I want to talk about the Last of Us HBO series. Did you guys see the did you guys see the teaser for the Last of Us HBO series? So I did see this a couple of times, and I realized that I actually didn't talk about it on the channel yet. I didn't give my opinion on it. The first thing I want to say is it's pretty clear that HBO is putting a lot of stock into this show because it was prominently featured. They actually kind of treated this Last of Us HBO series, they really treated it like this is a big deal. And I think it is, but I'm really fascinated by that because it seems like they really are expecting it to I think they're really expecting it to succeed. So to give my thoughts on what I saw, okay, number one, Pedro Pascal, he was only in it briefly, and he said they had one line, and holy shit, he nailed it, dude. I was shocked. I'm like, holy shit, dude, that he sounds just like Joel. And he looks the part. He looks the part, but he sounds the part. And I'm like, okay. That's Joel right there. That this is good. Now, when it comes to Bella Ramsey as Ellie, this is where I'm struggling. I'm struggling a little bit because she sounds good. Like, she sounds like Ellie, but I'm gonna be honest, she looks nothing like Ellie, in my opinion. And maybe that won't matter too much if she has the same mannerisms and exudes that same energy and she really channels the essence of Ellie. The looks maybe won't matter too much, but it's just when I look at her face, and it like her face just doesn't even remotely resemble Ellie. And that's what's just kind of throwing me off a little bit. And it's okay because, again, like, it's a show. I know the performance is for me, the performance is more important than the looks. Like, if she has to look facial wise a lot different than Ellie, but she acts just like her, sounds just like her, then that's Ellie. That's the live action version of Ellie. Fine. But I think I'm going to have a little bit of, I'm going to need a little bit more convincing because I was skeptical about Pedro Pascal as well. Mainly because every time I see Pedro Pascal, he just seems like he's such a happy dude, a happy-go-lucky guy. And he seems like such a nice guy. And I'm just like, I'm having trouble visualizing this dude as Joel. But when he when he just walked into the room, and he's like, you have no idea what pain is. I'm like, holy shit. Like, he nailed it, man. That is really good. Like, I'm happy. I'm really happy because, Joel's one of my favorite characters. I like Ellie. I like Ellie as a character, but for me, Joel is one of my favorite characters. Maybe just because I feel like I relate to him more so than Ellie. Obviously, it wouldn't be the same without the dynamic of Joel and Ellie, but he is one of my favorite characters, and I was just really curious, like, how is this going to translate? And so, in general, like, the tone I got from it was a very short teaser, and there was a dragon at the end, and I'm like, well, I guess they're adding a dragon to The Last of Us, so they're definitely making some changes. So I'm going to say now, obviously I'm joking. I don't know if anybody's picking up on my, I fear that there are going to be some people that think I'm serious there. That was sarcasm. I am joking. I know there, I feel like I was like, maybe I shouldn't say I'm joking. It would ruin the joke. But then I know that, like, I don't know. Sometimes I come off that way. Like, people can't tell when I'm joking. But, dude, you know what I'm really curious about with this show? So, something that's made clear is the first season of the show is going to cover the first game. Okay? I need to know, like, are they going to follow The Last of Us 2? Like, I guess what I'm trying to ask, guys, is do you see them killing off Pedro Pascal? Like, do you see that happening with this TV show? Do you see them pulling the same plot twist that occurred with The Last of Us Part 2 in the TV show? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Somebody says yes. I don't think so, man. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Pedro Pascal is like an A-list actor, correct? Like, he's like he's an A-lister to the point where you want people to know, like, he's in your show. Like, he might be a big reason why people even tune into your show, correct? Or maybe not. You're saying TV shows always like to kill Pedro, do they? Okay. Hey, don't look, I'm usually good with actors. I'm usually very good with actors. I'm going to be honest with Pedro Pascal. I'm not that familiar. Saying people love him. Yeah, I get that. I see a lot of you saying he's not an A-list actor. Really? Huh. Well, then I guess I see some people saying like they'll probably fill in the gaps. They'll probably fill in the gaps of like season 2 and season 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 if it goes that far. Like it'll be the years leading up to the events of The Last of Us Part 2. Okay, yeah, I could see that. That would be really interesting if they did that. Well, saying he made it big on game. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't he in a lot of stuff? He's in like The Mandalorian. You know, he's in Narcos, Game of Thrones. So I don't know. Well, either way, he has me convinced as Joel. And I'm very, I gotta admit, I'm very interested in this show. And yeah, he was in Wonder Woman 2 as well. I'm very interested in this show. I have high hopes for it. I want it to be good. And I think what I'm most curious about is if this show is as successful as, you know, if this show is as successful as clearly Sony and HBO are hoping for it to be. I just wonder like what they're going to do with that, which direction they're going to go in, you know, because there's a lot of different things they could do. And I'm just really curious. But, you know, we have seen situations where TV shows, movies, you know, they become more, I don't say more successful, but I guess in a way they become more popular than the source material itself. And they are willing to make changes, you know? So we'll see there. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it, man. I think I went through all of my topics. In general, I think that this week was an interesting one. I don't know that it was the most exciting, but I'm feeling, I don't know. I guess I'll ask this last question. I want to ask this last question before I head out. And I want to ask you guys, you know, what's your general feeling about PlayStation right now and going into September specifically? What's your feeling? For me, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to be honest. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm planning on, want to make it clear, I am planning on streaming The Last of Us Part 1. So for anybody who's been waiting for me to do another game stream, please tune into that. I will announce it, obviously, and I will let you know when it's going to happen exactly on my channel, on the community tab. I might even make a small little video announcing it, just letting everybody know. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what September may hold for PlayStation fans. And I'm feeling very optimistic. And I hope that it lives up to that. And I'm feeling obviously really good about the remainder of the year, getting closer to God of War. And it's crazy. I mean, I know we still have a couple of months left. We got September, October, November, December. So the year isn't over yet. But man, it's just crazy to think like we are really approaching 2023 rapidly. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. So, but all right, guys, before I head out, a couple of things I want to say. Number one, I want to extend a very sincere thank you to everybody who tuned into the podcast. I appreciate you hanging out with me. And I especially want to thank my channel members, but everybody who donated a super chat. You know, I say this every week, but it's because I need everybody to know that I literally couldn't do what I do here if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your continued support. It means the world to me. And I also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. A big shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the podcast. He usually has them up, and I pin the comment within the first 24 hours. So if you happen to see him, give him some love and thank him for that work he does for the channel and the community. And I also want to do a quick shout out to my higher tier members. So again, if you feel so inclined, you can become a member at the Play Has No Limits Plus or Play Has No Limits tiers. And for those who are, big shout out to Junior Jackson, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, RU46, N2 Ray, Whiskey Gaming, Pragmaticat, Hidden Leaf 2 Taka, Nakamichi, Luffy, Big Norman 0518. Then we have the Play Has No Limits category. So shout out to Rune Gasodin, Space Gambler Jr., Lady K, Black Waifus, Kevin Kahan, John Renzi, Zanarkan Blitzer, JDTV, Sir Speaks a Lot, A Shorty Faye, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, and Brandon Chad Perez. And if you didn't hear your name, if you happen to be a member on one of those tiers and you didn't hear your name, don't worry, it updates on a monthly basis. So your name will be there for the remainder or for all of September, and as long as you remain a member. And I have another super chat here from Mark Tech. He says, have you played or do you plan on playing any of the Yakuza games? I was very pleasantly surprised with Yakuza 0 and I think it's Kiwami on PS Plus Extra. It's interesting that you mentioned that because real quick before I go, my cousin is currently playing Yakuza. Yakuza Like a Dragon? And he's like completely addicted to it. And it was interesting because I didn't think he would ever play a game like that. And he's definitely recommending it to me. And so, I might play it at some point. Right now, I'm just getting prepped for The Last of Us and the barrage of holiday games that we're going to be getting. But a lot of people have recommended the Yakuza series to me. And so it's just like one of those games like Final Fantasy VII where it's like, I'm not saying never, and it's always going to be on the table for me. And it may happen. So obviously, if I do end up playing it, I'll let you guys know. But all right, guys, that does it. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday. I'm going to go chill for the remainder of my Sunday, hang out with the family. And yeah, I'll keep, the content flowing on the channel. I look forward to your support on that. And yeah, that's it. That's episode 23 of Press X Podcast. So until next time, guys, take care.